Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's Brian and Jim here with Drink a Beer and Play a Game, and welcome to another episode of the Power Hour.
Yes, welcome to episode 101, starting off the new century of episodes, I guess you want to call it. And before we get into brass tacks, two real quick shout outs to former guest of ours, to Asterios Kokonos for episode 100 of his loudest podcast, and to Thought Cops who just recorded their 200th episode. So, cheers to you guys.
Cheers, guys.
And speaking of guests, we're bringing in this next round of episodes right with another guest, a newcomer to the show. So you might know him from back in the day from his work on his page iRetroGamer or his time with Pixel Game Squad. He also has his new channel out right now. It's called MyRetroLife. His name is Tyler, and he is with us tonight. Tyler, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, guys. How are you guys doing?
You know,
Doing
it's
great.
definitely excited to have you on. I love seeing your videos over the past couple months. They've really seemed to be exploding for you, and just generally the work. You have one of the more unique gaming channels for sure. Like,
Thanks, man.
We were kind of talking beforehand, and we are like, yeah, he's like AVGN, but wholesome.
Yeah,
Where he's all about
yeah,
going back to the past, even more so. And then, I mean, we'll get into your content with between all the home videos and everything like that, and just all everything being built around memories or making new memories. It's like, it's a nice change of pace from the normal thing you see out there.
yeah. No, thanks. I kind of feel like in talking to the people that watch the show and just the viewership, the viewer base, I'm starting to feel this like camaraderie with like people my age who are like 34, 35, mid 30s, early 30s, maybe late 20s. But it's like a lot of the people watching are family guys. They've got kids of their own, and they're especially in these days, these crazy times we're living in. Everybody wants to go back. Everybody wants to remember better times, and it's so cool that the videos, people are really connecting with them, especially yeah, like you guys said, lately we've been doing really well. I just launched the channel, the My Retro Life version of the channel, back in July, and it's been doing really, really well. Yeah.
so we saw, the progression, like Jim said, from channel to channel. I mean, were you able to just automatically kind of take what you learned and figure out things you wanted to do, things you didn't want to do? Like, what was kind of the
Yeah.
that natural progression for you? I mean, what really started that spark in you back with some of your first channels of you wanted to do this, and now it evolved to here?
Yeah, I think it's weird if you trace, and I've thought about it often, like, okay, this has been all a big like progression. As far as when I started out, I really didn't have an idea of what I wanted to do. I had a film background. I went to film school. I was working in video production. So much of what I wanted to do was have it be the first channel, was have it just be like an outlet for the filmmaking and the video stuff. So there's content from that old channel that I still have. Actually, I'll probably be re-releasing some of it. But it was very like, I had like a 3 camera setup in some of these, and I'm like doing, it's very ambitious. Like, even if there was only going to be like 100 views, but I loved retro gaming. I grew up with all this stuff, and I just grew up in a crazy household filled with games and parents and family who loved games and stuff. And so it was just like my life. So I yeah, I just, I don't know. It's interesting. There wasn't a lot of focus in the original channel. That's one thing I will say. Like, if I could say there was like one fault with the original channel, iRetroGamer, it was that it didn't really, like, I jumped from one thing and then like something completely different would come one week, where like I'd do like a commercial, a parody of something. I did one for Fantasy Star with my wife, and then I did one for Montezuma's Revenge on the Sega Master System. And then one week there'd be like a regular kind of YouTuber, traditional kind of video retrospective. And then another week, my buddy and I are crashing a GameStop with a PlayStation to get the PlayStation 4 launch. We're crashing the GameStop with a Sega Master System in our hands, like doing funny things like that. And so it was kind of all over the place. I didn't have a lot of focus, and I think that might have kind of hurt the channel in some ways. And so once I really got into like the My Retro Life series, when I started doing that and focusing in on that, it became really clear, like, okay, this is the one that's really striking a chord with people. And then when I decided to kind of close shop for a little while and kind of get some priorities kind of focused on in my life. I actually killed the channel, the original iRetroGamer channel. And when I came back to everything, it was like, okay, I know now from, hindsight's always 2020. And I know now like how I want to focus the channel and where I want to kind of put my energy and what kind of stories I want to tell, what I want this channel to really be about. And that's really to cater to the old videos. If I do retrospectives and I do stuff where I'm just talking like with my background here and I'm just talking about games and stuff, I want everything to come from this like this wavelength of nostalgia and remembering the old days in such a positive way, and reflecting on even the footage, like, whenever I can, and talking about it and just being really open and candid and just, real. I think even back with the first channel, I would do things like I would kind of try to act a little crazy sometimes in some of the videos. Like I did some weird stuff. Like I had a video where I was talking about how the Virtual Boy is better than the Nintendo Switch. And then I was playing the Virtual Boy at one point and I took my head out of it and my eyes were bleeding. And like, like I did all sorts of crazy stuff. That's funny. It's funny stuff, but I definitely think the first incarnation of the channel, iRetroGamer, I really feel like it didn't have a focus, if that makes sense. That's a really long answer to your question.
No, I love it. I mean, and like you said, I think the progression is an important one. And two things I noticed right away. The first being, you mentioned, you come from a family of gamers. You guys were all obsessed. But, man, you almost have to give producer credits to your dad. With the amount of footage you have, like, I feel like most people we knew grew up with, you broke out the video camera for holidays or barbecues, like maybe bigger family parties. But the amount you have, like, was your dad in film too? Like, he had an eye for getting that kind of stuff, and it clearly passed on to you. And it's like, it shows so well. So, like, what happened there that he like knew about, like, let me capture these moments?
Well, you're absolutely right, and thanks for that. Like, he had a film background. He was out in Hollywood for a while in the 80s, trying to make it as an independent filmmaker. And I've released one of his films on the channel. It's called Treasure of the Haunted House, and it was shot on, I think, 16 millimeter, and or maybe it was even 32. Might have been 32. I should know these things, but I'd have to look back. But it was a fun, like, Halloween. It was like Tron mixed with Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
I always say, like, that's kind of the vibe that it was very much his sensibilities. And so all that to say, he was an independent filmmaker. He was making short films. He was rubbing elbows with guys like Richard Donner even. And speaking of Rocky, he was friends with John Alphonson, the guy who directed Rocky 1 and Rocky 5.
Wow.
And there's a photo. I actually have a photo of Dad holding his Academy Award in his house.
That's awesome.
Like, Dad loved that photo. It was so funny. So, yeah, he wanted to be a filmmaker, and then the independent filmmaking it didn't really pan out the way he was hoping, and he was really struggling for a while, as so many people do. Mm-hmm. And then eventually he just kind of he was actually back in New York. It's funny. He was back in New York with the plan to go back to LA. He was kind of getting his bearings again after, I think, being out there for a year or two. And then he met my mom, fell in love, and the rest is history.
It's how it always happens. I mean, you said that right away. That's what I saw in the footage you had. This wasn't the atypical dad shooting. This is somebody who had an eye for what to capture, how to capture. And I love, like, one of your newer videos about capturing the little commercial you sent to your cousins in New York. Those are the type of things I was like, okay, that's just crazy unique. And the fact that you were able to take that is why I said, like, you have one of the more unique retro. We can all do retro. We can all record gameplay now, but you have the real live reaction of yourself as a kid. And it's funny because, we all think we have a good memory of ourselves, but you have actual recorded memory. Whereas, like, I think I know how I was when I first played this or that. You get to see it firsthand. So you almost don't have to think too hard about what you were like then, but you add that extra element of being in the moment, and it opens up more doors for you. And like I said, I love that style. But the other thing is, now that you are so focused on these, do you? I'm assuming you're still, playing games now, like especially modern games. Do you ever get to a point where you have a game you love so much, and you're like, I would love to talk about this, but that's not really the direction of my channel now.
That Yeah, that kind of I deal with that with modern games. In fact, it's kind of something I'm trying to find a way to start talking about modern games, but in a way that doesn't alienate anybody who, maybe is just there for the retro. Like I don't want people to be like, oh, he's becoming a modern channel and stuff. But like let's just say I just finished finally got to playing Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night, which is
Great game.
incredible,
Oh yeah,
fantastic. If you haven't played it, yeah, it's so good. It's like the future of Castlevania, and Castlevania is one of my favorite series.
Mm-hmm.
And but like I'm like, I definitely am almost in a point right now where I'm thinking like, do I focus more in on, because time is, time, it takes a long time to do this stuff, so you got to pick your projects wisely. And uh, so I am at kind of a crossroads where I'm trying to think, okay, do I even spend the amount of time it takes to do one of these videos on something like Bloodstained, or do I hone in on, just telling more stories about my past and my, story with dad and collecting. And there's an insane amount of stuff to talk about there. So yeah, it's definitely from week to week as I'm coming up with content and stuff like that. Something that I struggle with from time to time. Like I got sent a review product recently. There's one of the videos on the channel is an Anbernic um, portable gaming machine from the Anbernic company, and emulation portable. And they sent it to me, and it was a cool, review product. And it wasn't sponsored or anything, but I felt kind of obligated, in a way to like, I've got to do that. I've got to review this thing now. And I reviewed it, truthfully. And it's always very important to be true to your craft.
Oh, for sure.
But it's so funny though. Like after doing that one, I'm like, man, I don't want anybody to ever send me anything again.
yeah.
'Cause I will feel like the pressure um, to do it for them. And I don't know. And I have so many other projects I want to do. So
And
um,
you
yeah.
kind of banged out like two in a row because you just did the Evercade and then you did the Amberneck like right after
Yes,
it almost within
Evercade.
like the
Yeah, I
last
did that
month.
for Pix. Now, the Evercade. Yeah, we actually through Pixel Game Squad. We actually requested that be
Oh,
sent to
nice.
us. That was something we were like, this would be cool to review. This would be a really cool thing. And so that one, yeah. But then yeah, Anbernic that got sent, and but I'm like trying to get out of that game. Like I don't even think I'm going to review another product for a long time. Yeah.
And that's the tough thing with your rise in success. Obviously, more and more people are like, well, hey, we want you to, even if they're like a newer, but they're bringing back something retro. Yeah, that
Right.
obligation. It's fun because on one hand, it's always like, I'm sure thinking of your younger self, what could be better than getting things to try out and gaming stuff? But like you said, you have a family, you have life, you have so many things going on. You can only dedicate so much time to the things you really want to do, and now you add that layer. It's an interesting predicament to be in for sure.
It is, and if there's one thing I've learned in doing YouTube, it's that do it and have fun doing it, and be passionate about what you're doing. Because when you start losing that passion, if anything ever starts to feel like work, then you're heading down a wrong road. If the YouTube channel is taking more away from you than it is giving, I think it's time to rethink things. So uh, I very much make sure these days, like, okay, um, there's much better balance and much better like focus. And honestly, it's not even. It's more just a better sense of what this is. Like this is YouTube. YouTube will, if you let it, it can kind of take over and control you. And so I just make sure I don't give it that power. And so whenever that's why I don't have a schedule. I don't have a schedule of when I release stuff. Because if I had a schedule, I'd be like, so like focused on like, oh my gosh, I got to meet that deadline. And you have enough deadlines in life to, and if you add more deadlines, even personal deadlines, you're going to burn out. You're going to burn out real quickly.
Oh, and then with a kid, your deadlines get thrown out the window anyway.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the thing too. And then you never want to put yourself in a situation where these other hobbies and different things you're doing and projects and things you're juggling are taking away from your family. And whenever you get into a position like that, then it's like whoa,
Yeah.
put on the brakes. And that is what I did. That's what I did when I first when that was one of the things, is that I when I first first shut down the original channel, was that I had really let things kind of go as far as my priorities, and there was a lot of, I was definitely in a situation where I was feeling like, okay, I've got to reprioritize my life. This is not working the way it is. And so sometimes in order to do that, you just got to you got to cut away all the distractions and reanalyze and kind of configure. And I think we've, as a family, grown, and me as an individual have grown and learned so much, and I think come back in a much stronger, healthier way.
And I think that shines. I think your passion and your enjoyment is what comes through with your videos, where there's plenty of people out there that you can tell it's both, I feel like, a blessing and a curse. It's amazing that there are people who can make a living off YouTube videos and stuff, and I give them all the credit in the world, but they get to a certain point. I feel like we see every major YouTuber now, it does look like a job for them. You can tell like the kind of same fervor that got them the attention. They're like, I just gotta get something out because now this is what pays the bills. And that's like, it almost feels unfortunate because it's like, oh man, that's that dream escaping, because there's like, there is a timetable to it. And the fact that, you have stabilized and prioritized, that's what, you're doing this for fun. You're not doing it because you have to do it. So that's, like I said, I think that's something that any YouTuber out there, like, yeah, I can't stress enough for what you just said, that if you're not having fun, you're doing it and you're feeling stressed about it, probably not the right thing, for sure.
No, it's really not. And I really do got to stress too. You gotta love it too. Like, not just even having fun, like, because even there's so many things that can get you down it's funny, we're talking about the YouTube world and stuff. Like there's so many things, social media, comparison. So many people fall into the comparison game, and that is just the worst place to be in, because you're never gonna, like, if you're not doing it because you love it and you're constantly comparing yourself to other channels or other people, this could be in anything. This could be in any job, situation, business. Then you're just gonna be miserable. You're gonna be miserable. And it's funny. I heard somebody recently say to me. I heard it was a quote somewhere. I can't remember where it was, but it was something from Will Smith, who admitted recently in some interview or something. Don't quote me on this because I might be quoting a misquote. I don't even know, but I heard this somewhere. But it made a lot of sense that Will Smith was asked, like, is there anybody, like, anything that, like, you're like such a big star, all this stuff, is there anything that really gets you down? And he, like, admitted to the fact that he was jealous of The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. That, like, he was actually jealous of The Rock because The Rock was the number one paid actor in America, and it was no longer Will Smith. And it's just funny. It's like, whoa. Will Smith is Will Smith, and even he is not even he is not like happy. Like, he can be jealous and stuff. So because he was comparing himself to The Rock, at that point. So you can't get into that. It's like, it's never going to satisfy you.
Yeah, and Jim and I mean, we easily could fall down those traps of like, oh man, like, can you believe this channel, or like, oh, the views for this, like we put so much time into this video and we love making it, but it got 50 views or 100 views. You know, it's easy to fall down those traps. But it is funny because if you asked either of us, I think of like, what are some of the most fun videos you made? They're not the most viewed. They're not even close to it. But it's we would still go back and say, okay, let's keep making this type because we do enjoy doing it. And you know, you experiment, you try different things. But I like also how you framed it, that you realized pretty early on you needed to like focus because you were jumping from style to style, and you were like, okay, I can't do that. I need to really just, what's the one I really care about the most? But like I said, even you're at this, you're coming to that crossroad of like, man, now I do want to talk about some modern games. So it's that perfect, it's that perfect balance that we all strike and fight within ourselves, I feel like.
Yeah, I think variety is the spice of life, and so I think for a lot of people, especially creators, if you're creative minded and your brain thinks that way, you're going to constantly, and also just personality types. I don't know if you take those like personality tests and stuff like that, but I'm like a 7.
Myers-Briggs.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like a 7 on the Indiogram. Is that what it's called? I can't remember what it is, but like apparently 7's like love adventure, and we love like things constantly changing. We don't like monotony at all. Anyway, that's what I was rated a 7, but I think a lot of creative types are like that, and you want to keep trying new things and doing new things because it keeps you satisfied to do different things and new things, and so yeah, I think that's always going to be a struggle for me, but I definitely have like anything you learn, and I definitely want to, because when I look back at the old videos that I did and the way the channel was, I kind of look at it like it's kind of like looking back at your high school days. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh my gosh, what was I doing? I was dressing that way, or looking that way. What was I doing with my hair? I had no, yeah, and that's it's a lot like that when you're starting out on YouTube, and then you do it long enough, and you kind of get into a groove and figure out who you want to be in life. Kind of thing, like high school. It's so funny.
So when G's putting up the iRetroGamer rewinds and you see yourself with the spiky hair back then, you're going, no.
Yes, dude. Oh my gosh. And I look at some of that stuff, and it's great. I mean, I love it because it's great old memories, great memories that I'll cherish forever. But I'm like, oh my gosh, why was the lighting that bright? Why did I do it this way? What's with the white backdrops? Like, why was I thinking it needed to all be white? I overanalyze those videos so much, and yeah, especially the hair. There's some days where I haven't shaved at all. Like, it's like really, in my hair, I swear it changes like so many times. If you watch like all the iRetroGamer stuff, I didn't know what I was doing with So these days, actually, I wear this hat a lot, and so I feel like I'm kind of a hat guy. I think I'm gonna wear hats more.
That's your go-to. I mean, and that goes back to, there is a thing.
You hat people. I can't wear hats because my head's too big.
Well, Jim, don't be jelly of us that can.
Well, I'm jelly. I'll always be jelly.
It's funny you said that, Tyler, because I went back. Same deal. I looked, and I'm as Jim said, I'm the one who I do the editing. I do it, and I can't believe, like, even though we started with Windows Movie Maker and the Rock Band mic, like we started with the most bare bones, terrible setup possible, and I'm like, there's still essences of us, but at the same time, you're like, if I could go back, I would change X, Y, and Z. And you, like I said, you at least had the advantage. You went to film school. You had a 3-camera setup, which is probably the best produced possible YouTube video. Like, you're so many leagues above the game. So you have such an over-analytical mind for those things, for the technical side of it. That, even stuff you're doing probably like a year or two ago, you'll look back in another 2 years and be like, I really should have did this instead of that. Yeah, it's like that constant, nothing is ever good enough. You'll always be judging.
Yeah, no, it's just the way it is. I mean, you look at other creative types like, I'm not trying to compare myself to George Lucas, but if you look at George Lucas, like, he's the same way. He constantly wanting to change Star Wars, and I think if we kind of had that kind of money to throw into CGI and change things in all of our stuff, we would probably do it too. But yeah, I mean, I think there's this overanalyzing our work. I know I'm like a perfectionist a lot of times with my stuff, and um, like that's why I spend so much time on like those My Retro Life episodes, and then like I'll finally publish it, and I'll be really, I was like certain that it was fine. And then I'll
Yep.
find something. I'll see one thing that I should have done a little differently, or maybe the audio mix was not as good as I wanted it to be, and it'll bother me forever. Like, because now it's forever. It's always I can't go back and change it. It's out there.
Every time.
Yep.
The worst is like when there's
How many
an
times
audio
have you
click.
how many times have you re-rendered like a long like couple-hour video just because of one little thing?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I've done that several times.
Now, actually, speaking with you trying to jump into newer stuff, would you almost think like the video, because I love the one you did with your daughter for the midnight release for
Hyrule Warriors.
Hyrule Warriors,
Yeah.
And I mean, if you want to talk about your troubles with YouTube, with you ever using your daughter and stuff too, but I was just like, oh, there's your perfect opportunity right there. Going out with the daughter, a game she gets into, and it's like, oh, this is something I want to play too. Hey, you should probably go with me and play this.
Yes, totally. Like that was a great one, and people really liked that one. We're going to do more stuff like that. Whenever there's kind of a big game release and a game that she's really excited about, we'll probably put out. And I'm calling those My Retro Life Next Gen, and so those are going to be fun because I want to obviously for years and years to come be doing the channel, and I think it'll be amazing if we keep putting out maybe 11 of those even in just a year.
Yeah.
It'll be amazing to look back one day and just see Hallie's growth and her all sorts of people will be watching her gaming life. We would have done that. We would have done that when I was a little kid, like if the internet was around and YouTube was around. We would have I think that's what Dad and I would have done. We would have had our own YouTube channel back in those days. So I think we're going to keep that going. It'll be really cool just to see, to look back one day, and it'll be just really sweet, like these time capsules of us gaming.
Oh, for sure. You're going to have one of those videos because, like, I'm a drummer, so I watch a ton of drumming videos. And there's always the cool ones where it's like a kid starts playing a song at 3, and then, like, you eventually see him playing it at 16, and, like, how he's grown the entire time.
Yeah.
So you have the same thing there, just with her being a gamer.
Exactly, yeah. And there's a game, I mean, it's just amazing how much she's like, I mean, when we got her Hyrule Warriors in that video, like I had no idea that she would be so good at it. She was interested in it, and she was already talking about it, and I showed her the trailer and all this stuff, but I had no idea how much of a taking to that game she would. She plays it all the time. She's put hours and hours into that, and I think video games have helped, much like they helped me and a lot of other people. They've helped her read. Her reading comprehension is incredible at school. We've just got some tests back actually, and her reading comprehension is like higher than everybody. I'm like, it's because she plays games.
She's got to read the tutorials.
Teachers never want to hear that, but the fact is, there is something to say about the brain stimulation of reading, history, hand-eye coordinate. Like when I talk to friends and they're like, oh man, what do you do in your free time? If I say play games and then I ask them, they're like, well, I just watch TV. I'm like, but you're not activating it. Like, I'm actually thinking the amount of useless actual semi-historical knowledge or even knowledge of things that are random. Like, if you played GTA too much, you were almost a mini mechanic because you knew the ins and outs of car. Like, there were so many things that I could pull, and if someone's like, how do you know that? I'm like, well, there's this game, and they're like, really? Like, come on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, any kind of job where you're using your hands in a way, like I'm sure like surgery. I mean, obviously you want to go to school and you want to get the correct education for that, but like I'm sure mechanics, surgeons, bomb diffusers. No, I think really video games are so helpful in so many ways for just, I mean, like you said, it's like that higher brain function. You're thinking, you're constantly thinking and problem solving. That's another big thing about video games. It teaches you how to problem solve early, especially at an early age. And yeah, there's, I mean, all the people that like railed against games back in the day, you know, and even to this day, I'm always like, you have no idea.
You just didn't understand it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just don't get it. Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because the same people that would generally rally against what you would consider the console gamers or hardcore gamers are the same ones that will play Candy Crush or whatever on their phone and waste time with
Right.
that, or do jigsaw puzzles, or just watch reality TV. It's like we all have something that we do.
Yeah.
I always equate the value of gaming to, yeah, you're at least activating your brain in one way or another. And our generation is the most unique because, unlike any other generation, like our kids are growing up with the internet and computers. We grew up with gaming. Like it was
Yeah.
already in our system, if you will. Like so, we
Yeah.
didn't have to, it wasn't a new discovery. And
Right.
I think, unlike our parents, you're not going to see many. Your dad might be the exception, but most dads in 70s or 80s, they're not going to be playing games. I fully expect, even if I couldn't walk, I'd still be sitting there playing a game if I could.
Yeah. No, I know. It is interesting. It's gonna be interesting. I've thought about that sometimes. Like, our generation, like when our generation's in its 70s, 80s, like we're gonna be like the coolest old guys
Yeah.
because like we'll have like we're gonna be still gaming and like still like involved with all this tech stuff and like it's funny to me because I think of like my grandparents and stuff and like they were so lame. Like in comparison, like, not really. I love
Yeah.
I love my grandparents. I actually miss them. I actually just lost them. Like my last three alive grandparents passed away a year ago.
Oh, sorry to hear that,
All the
bud.
same year, yeah. So no,
Jeez.
I am in no way trying to diss that generation. It's interesting. I was just joking around, but I was having this conversation with my cousin Manny, who's on my retro life quite a bit, and we were just saying like, this is so crazy. Like, this whole generation is going. Like this whole generation is going, and it's like really bizarre. Yeah, it was one family member after another. It was my grandmother, and yeah, it's like my grandmother, my grandfather, then my other grandmother, and then my great uncle, all in the same year, all within a span of like a year and a half. And it was so crazy. It was so bizarre. And now I actually was talking to my wife about this. And I was like, wow, the only living relative of mine on both sides of my family of that generation is now Aunt Marilyn. And I'm like, whoa,
It's a
like,
yeah.
yeah,
And
it's just really weird to think about.
when you figure out generationally, and I think things like when I got married, one of the things we did with our church was we had to figure out like a family tree, and then through 23andMe, when you look at a generational thing, yeah, when you think of it in generationally, like a whole line of a tree, like what it represents,
Yeah,
it weighs on you a little differently because, like you said, we're all dads here. We're hopefully for most people, like you still have a generation or two above you, but like
yeah,
we're sneaking up there, and
yeah.
it just gives you perspective. It's just different.
Yeah, it really does. It definitely makes you appreciate life and things a little more the older you get. And it's obviously that's pretty cliche, but you don't really start thinking about it and believing it until it happens to you.
Yeah, no,
It's
for
one of
sure.
those like things you learn in life. Yeah,
No, but yeah, I mean, like I said, I think to go back to what you were saying though, with it, getting the chance to do that with your daughter and create this like next gen series, it's interesting because even though we are all stuck in our ways from our nostalgia. No matter what, there's never going to be a new game that comes out that beats the nostalgic memory of a game that changed your life as a kid. So you now get to see through her eyes what game is doing that. And for right now, for her, if it's Hyrule Warriors, like that's not your game, but that's her, like it's her own
that's
thing, and you're
hers.
gonna get
Yeah,
to see like what that new generation is, and it's gonna be fascinating because it's gonna open your eyes now to like the mindset of the next generations, and it's
yeah,
yeah, it's very you'll become a time capsule for our 8-bit, 16-bit, whatever and she'll be
Right.
like, "Well, Dad, yeah, I know you like this one, but this is so much better." And you
Yeah,
know,
she will, and I can already see it because she does prefer the more modern games. Like she really does. She her first game that she ever played, and it's funny. I have a little bit of footage of her like playing it for the first time is Mario Odyssey.
Oh
And
wow.
I'm gonna find like I have a lot of footage of her actually that I haven't utilized in that way. I'm trying to figure out like the right time and place to do because I didn't start the series until later, as far as the My Retro Life next gen stuff. So like I'm trying to figure out like how do I go back and show that time she was playing Mario Odyssey or the time we actually we filmed us getting Kirby on the Switch, the Shattered Star. No, what is it called?
Star Allies.
Star Allies, yeah.
yeah,
Shattered Star, what is that? But yeah, Star
Some
Allies.
RPG.
Yeah, it's an RPG. It sounds more like an RPG. It sounds like a Kirby game. Um, but yeah, there's a couple of fun clips when she was younger, even that I have that I'm still trying to figure out like how to how to put content out with it and tell a story with it. And so that'll be coming out at some point.
yeah. I
And
mean, like our parents try to convince us of certain bands, music, movies, and we're like, they're nothing compared to the newer ones we'd listen to, especially at a younger age. It's that tough moment of like, well, my dad was a big Rolling Stones guy, and as a kid, I was like, I don't want to listen to that. I want Green Day, or I want this, or I want that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then, you know, you grow up and you then appreciate it. But as a young kid, you definitely, what parents like is old and dad. Like, you don't have that appreciation.
Yeah, I was kind of a rare example of that, of the opposite, actually, of that. I know exactly what you're saying. Like, that's very normal. But for some reason, I really latched onto the stuff Dad would listen to because he was listening to, I mean, like you said, Rolling Stones, The Who, The
Hmm.
Kinks, British invasion bands, The Beach Boys, T Rex, all sorts of classic rock. Black Sabbath, you name it. And I really really loved that stuff even as a kid. Now
Yeah.
I did have my own stuff that I really liked. Like I would ask about newer bands and stuff, and Dad was cool with that too. Honestly, like he would get into new bands. I mean, I remember he got into No Doubt, he got into Third Eye Blind, he got into Soul
Wow.
Asylum in the
Nice.
90s. All these cool 90s bands, and we went to the concerts too. We went to a lot of concerts growing up. I went and saw No Doubt with Dad in their prime back in
Oh,
'97. Tragic Kingdom tour.
Wow.
that's
And I
awesome.
saw them.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
height of prime. Jesus.
it was remarkable. I remember. I think it was Cake opened for them, and so it was just a killer concert. And it was highly impressionable. I was only like 11 or 10 in '97. Yeah, like yeah, probably 11 at that point.
That's awesome.
And yeah, such a great
I'm
concert.
sitting here. My dad didn't move past Frankie Avalon, so I'm just like, this is what we're listening to, huh, Dad? Yes, we are.
You know, gosh, it's funny. I I don't take for granted all that stuff, man. Like I know like
Oh yeah.
that Dad was a special breed.
Yeah.
And it was it's
Now,
crazy. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, so for like a lot of kids, like for me, like my parents weren't against me gaming, but they were against how much I gamed.
Mhm.
So, did you ever have that thought in the back of your head where you were worried about your daughter becoming a gamer, or like maybe spending too much time with it, or getting into it in general, or something like
I,
it's a thing you don't want your kid to be that like you almost saw as a flaw because of how you were raised, or something like that?
the
Even
only
though you sounds like you had a way different kind of upbringing.
Yeah, no, I didn't. The only thought in my head about that was I don't want to force it on her.
Hmm.
I don't want her to be like I'd be like Hallie, you've got to love video games. Like you've got to. Here's Super Mario. You sit here and play it
You
until you
beat
pass.
it.
Yeah, exactly. No, I didn't want to be like that because I wanted her to be her own person and be her own, have her own likes and things that she loves and whatever that was going to be. I was going to support that and help her in that and become into that myself because
Yeah.
more than anything I wanted to be her buddy and like Dad was for me, and so but it just really worked out good because she loves games like I do. So But no, yeah, you know, and it's true. Like anything she gets into, I'll still support and try to get into. You know, different hobbies and stuff, whatever that may be. But it's funny, Dad. Like, it's funny. Like, there were certain things that he couldn't get into. He couldn't really get behind. Like, he didn't like Michael Jackson. He couldn't stand Michael Jackson's music.
Just ran.
Wow.
Yeah, it's weird, huh? Like, it's weird. But I loved Michael Jackson. Like we all did when we were
Oh yeah.
kids
Yeah.
in the '90s, especially. And like, you know, I remember wanting to get the Dangerous record when it came out, and talking to Dad about it, and him being like, "Yeah, you know, okay." Like, yeah, like
Not being crazy about it.
yeah, no, like he wouldn't go like, "Don't get that" or anything like that. He was like, he actually bought me the History CD, History of the, what was it called, History Part 1, or yeah, I can't remember what it was.
Something like that. Yeah, like the double disc greatest
Yeah, it
hits
was the
one with
double
like him
disc,
as a
yeah.
statue. Yeah.
I remember him surprising me with that. So like, it's not like he was totally against it or anything, but it was definitely an artist that he didn't care for. And he would kind of let me know at times, like, "You like that?" He'd go like, you like Michael Jackson?" I was like, "Yeah, okay." You know, and he'd be supportive like that. But it is funny though that I wonder sometimes, like, how will I handle that if there's something that I really don't care for, but like Hallie's really into? Like, obviously I'll handle it like Dad did probably. Like, I'll just be really supportive, even though I'm kind of like, "Oh, I can't stand that music," you know, or whatever that is. Yeah.
No, I had the similar, like I said, Green Day was my thing, and I remember my mom being like, you shouldn't listen to them. They're like, you know, they're on drugs or something. I was like defending them. No, they're not. Not realizing what I'm looking at on the covers. There's like, I was like, I just like their music, and I'll never forget trying to convince my mom, because I didn't know it, but where I went to school, like everyone's like, Snoop Dogg, Doggy Style. And I was like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
that's what I want to get, just because everyone I knew talked. My mom was like, no. I was like, why not? Like, I couldn't even conceptualize as a kid, like, why I couldn't have it.
Yep.
She made the right call back then, but still, I couldn't, like my mind back then was like, oh, she just doesn't like modern music. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
I know, and it's all about what they look. Yeah, like, because I mentioned,
and what you
know,
catch on to.
Yeah.
yeah, that's true.
It's actually funny because like my mom was super strict growing up with like, you know, this is good, this is trash, blah blah blah. Huge Beatles fan, and she'd be like, "This is why you should like them and the Beatles more than this, because the Beatles never did drugs." And looking back, I'm like, dip dip.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's the biggest
Like
lie ever.
she lives in that little bit of a cloud.
Yeah,
Even still to this day.
Yep.
I think. Oh, go ahead.
Now I was gonna say, actually speaking to your doggy style thing, Bri, like when we were growing up as wrestling fans, one of the Rock's
Oh.
phrases was "Poontang Pie," and I would just write random wrestling phrases on like my wall. So I had "Poontang Pie" written there, and my aunt one day is looking and she's like, What do you have this written here for?" I was like, "What? It's what the Rock says." Completely oblivious
Yep.
as like an 11-year-old.
What the Rock
Looking
says.
back, I was like, "Oh."
Do you have
The
any
Rock says it,
idea
it's okay.
how much
Right, exactly.
trouble I got into for the DX? The the
The
suck
suck it.
it that
Oh yeah.
not fully grasp it. Like, I had a kind of idea, but not really grasping how crazy that was as a 7th grade or 8th grade, whatever. You know, it's yeah.
You know what's
Look,
really
they're-
funny is
They're schmillionaires. They know better than us.
Yeah.
yeah. What's really funny is like back. I was into wrestling big time back in those days too for a while. Like I kind of got out of it like in the. It was sometime in the Attitude Era. Like I stopped really paying attention when The Rock and Triple H were real big, and I just kind of lost. I would jump on every now and then. I'd kind of catch up with what's going on,
Yeah.
but then John Cena and stuff. Yeah, but I didn't regularly watch it. But my favorite wrestler and who I was watching for like when I was hardcore watching it every week was Bret Hart.
Oh,
And
man.
it was so funny. You guys are mentioning like DMX and The Rock and these things that were happening, and it was around that time where Bret Hart was like, it was that whole
You going sunny days?
no, it was all
Okay.
the whole Canada like America war thing,
Yep.
Uh-huh.
like war on America.
Classic.
And dude, it was such a crazy thing because I was young. I was too young to understand that it was all like an act.
Right.
And like as far as like he really didn't hate America.
No.
like he was, but it was killing me. They were turning him heel, but it was killing the young fan in me because I was like, no, like, don't hate America. Like, well, it's not
I'm
that bad.
American.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm American. You hate me now? Yeah, I like it took it real personally, and it got me thinking too. Like, maybe I should hate America.
Dad,
Like, I
I'm gonna
really was
become
thinking,
Canadian.
I was like, if Bret Hart, he's got a point. Like, we don't care about our healthy, our I think there's that line he says, we care for our old, we care for our elderly, and he's making this big rant, and I was like, yeah, the power of persuasion, the power of
And
words.
those are the best promos of his career too.
Yep.
Yeah, when you look back, it's like, man, that was such an amazing time. Especially when he turned heel, when the I Quit match with Steve Austin, just incredible. When you see what all went into that, and just how it happened, how it unraveled, the drama, the storytelling involved there. But when I was a kid, it was so funny because I didn't understand, and I took it real personally.
So are you telling us you were very close to being a Tyler? It says a boot.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh my gosh.
Well, that man, there's a few realizations as a kid that are hard truths of things not being real.
Yeah.
Santa, Easter Bunny, but the wrestling one was a unique one because I feel like our generation had already like them. I feel worse for the ones that were our age in the '80s who really found out wrestling was fake. But like our generation, like I feel like right from the get, like my dad or my older brother would be like, it's fake. And I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Like, like this really. And then there's that like that switch. It's like you just don't care. You're like, okay, it's fake. It's fine. But man, like the soul crushingness, like you're saying, like Bret Hart, or when you find a guy like when Hogan turned to Hollywood Hogan and WCW, the reaction from kids, I could totally get that. And it's that. Being that naive is something it's the ignorance is bliss. It's like with video games and everything else. Like, oh my God, I can't believe there's a big twist like this. It's something we all are like, really want back.
He killed Aerith.
It's so true. I mean, I can remember those days so well. And you're going back to talking about like the home movies and how you said something about like how your memory is really shaped, like because I have so many of the home movies. Like I used to think it was so interesting that so many people I knew, friends I knew, they would tell me like they don't even remember they don't remember being 5 years old or 6 years old, or they don't really remember certain things. And I'm like, I remember like it vividly. I have, and I think what happened was not only do I have the tapes to look back on and see, and so much footage, but I also would watch these tapes when I was a kid. So like Dad would make them and he'd dub them to VHS. So he'd film on video 8 cassette tape, and then he would make VHS dubs of all of our home movies. And it was not just the game stuff, it was so much just family stuff, just regular family day-to-day stuff. And I would, along with my Ghostbusters cartoons, X-Men, and all sorts of other things, I would watch the home movies like as entertainment. And so I had such a vivid, even as a kid and growing up, I had such a connection with my childhood, and such a vivid recollection of it, and not just the visual memories but the feelings, like the way I felt in all these different instances, and the way, and it really helped. Like I have a lot of memories from those days early that I remember vividly, that are not on tape. And it's crazy to me. Like I'm talking about, like I can remember them like it was yesterday. Like I can remember details and just things about certain days and certain times growing up with games. Like I'll just shoot off a quick story right here. I remember freaking out, being at my friend's house, Brian, who's in the series quite a bit, and I was like 5 or 6 years old, maybe 5, and thinking, oh my gosh, or maybe even 4, and thinking we can't leave the Nintendo on for too long because it's going to blow up. If you leave it on for too long, it's going to overheat and blow up. Some kid gave me that rumor, put that in my head, and I would worry about it. In fact, I don't know, maybe I haven't shown it, but there's a time, I should talk about this actually. There's a time where I'm at my cousin's house. We're having a family dinner. Oh yeah, I have used the clip where Manny he says something like, Uncle Mark, do you want me to watch me win Super Mario Brothers, or Super Mario Brothers? And we're at the dinner table there. Well, the whole context of that dinner table, there's more dialogue, there's more things that Dad recorded at that dinner table. And like, you'll see me as a kid looking back to the television. We have paused the game. It's like in the background, you can see the TV and the game is on. I think it was Super Mario 3. And I'm constantly turning my head while I'm trying to eat dinner, and my mom keeps going, Tyler, eat your lasagna, eat your dinner, you know. And I'm like, I keep looking back at it, and she goes, don't worry, it's going to be fine. It'll be there when you're done. But my thought, I can tell you because I remember, but it's not, it's not documented on tape like what I was thinking, but I remember thinking it was going to blow up.
Yeah.
That if we don't go back to it, it's somehow, everything when you're a kid is magnified.
Oh yeah.
I literally thought the whole machine would just blow up. So funny.
No, I can fully appreciate. When I look back at like family tapes, it for a moment does sharpen all my senses, like things I
Yeah.
would not have. Oh yeah, I did remember doing this, and I did that because of da 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 da. And you have such a more complete version of that, whereas the average person who might have had one videotape a year, if that, just like, yeah, I remember Christmas, something about, yeah, like this system. It's going to be much more vague, whereas you can get to more minute details. And like you said, there's something to be said. Like, that's our kids, like, especially now with us, even if you're not a films, someone who went to film school, everyone has an iPhone. Everyone has a smartphone. You're photoing, you're videoing. You have so much more things captured for the next generation. It's almost sad for them. They almost won't be able to make up a story. Like,
they can't escape it.
We almost embellish story. Like, because that's part of the fun. You make a story sound better. Like, oh man, I did this thing that was a 40-foot like jump or something, and you're like, it was 9 feet. I have the video right here. You're like,
Yeah.
Shut up. Like our kids will be, their entire life will be documented from when they're babies. All the little things, like, it's going to be well documented and captured somewhere. So they're like almost inescapably going to know every detail of every event.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I never thought about that. I never thought about how people, that whole generation, as when they grow up, they're going to have such a better recollection, like you just said, of past events and their childhood and things because of that. Because of specifically that. That's pretty wild. That's a cool thought to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
And it's also good blackmail.
oh yeah. I mean, us, like,
right.
we joke about our school pictures, but like, yeah, you're like, well, here's this picture of you whining about something I took on my iPhone or this or that, and it's like, now you're trying to be cool at 18. Well, here it is.
No. My 3-year-old's favorite thing right now is to run around naked, run up to me, shake her booty, and go, poopy butt, while smacking. And I'm just go, keep it up.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Yep.
And you know what? Like, it just, I think as time goes on, that'll just get crazier and crazier with what can be recorded on an almost minute by minute basis. And you could literally, like, the one show, I don't know if either of you watch Black Mirror, but
I haven't seen it.
one of the most fascinating episodes, they're all about technology and how it'll affect, but one of them was this concept of this, like, technology where you have it's like something implanted in you, but you're able to play back any moment of your life. And some people have it from the time they're kids, and literally like a video, you're rewinding it. So you can be like, oh, I just had an interview. Let me see where I went wrong. You go back and you rewind it.
Yeah.
But you overanalyze so much of your past that you almost can't live in the present because you're like constantly looking at old footage. So there's something to be said there too. Like, when is it too much?
Yeah, no, it's true. And it's crazy to think, that the more as time goes by, new technology and all this stuff, that you didn't this stuff didn't exist at one point. You didn't even have the ability to video yourself at one point in the history of time. Like there was a time when the idea of, even if you really want to go back, taking a photograph of yourself, being able to see the past in any way, shape, and form was black magic.
Yeah.
And so it's crazy to think that, there was human beings that lived on this planet for so many years and centuries that, didn't have all that. And it's like, it makes you wonder, like, how how much more well adjusted maybe were they,
Yeah.
Yeah.
in a way. It's like I think that maybe they had a much firmer grasp of like reality and um, at least their reality, and I don't know, maybe they enjoyed life more. Sometimes I think like this. I think like,
They value it. Yeah.
right, like you didn't think about stuff like that. You didn't think about the past as much, even probably.
Yeah, and you're not worrying about what someone halfway across the world thinks of you, and they're
Right,
just more
right.
living in the moment. Also, because they lived to like 40 if they were lucky, but they had to cherish every second they
Yeah, no,
got.
exactly. And yeah, when I think about that with photographs, it's like they look at a photograph, like they never have seen. They'd have to just have their memory of what they looked like when they were in their 20s. Let's say they're
Yeah.
in their 40s or 50s. And so they have, how people always look at younger photos of themselves and they're like, man, I was so young. And they get that all misty eyed, and man, those days are gone. And it's like, wait, there's whole generations of people that had no ability to even, maybe they remembered and remembered the old days and wanted to go back, but it definitely was different. I mean,
Our generation, almost with technology, I think perfected the idea of nostalgia. Like,
yes,
if you think of our parents, I don't know any of them other than like maybe how things might have been a little different. I don't think any of them clamor for like, oh man, everything was so much better in the 40s or 50s or like
yeah,
nowadays it's like, oh man, the 80s, oh man, the 90s. Because we have some kind of footage of like the clothing. No, the clothing all sucked back then too, but we
yeah,
act like we miss it because now we
Sir,
have
please.
footage of a simpler time.
yeah,
So, gaming, one of the more interesting things is you have your footage of you even playing the retro games. But when you play modern games or when you play anything, Jim and I fall down this rabbit hole of we're in this age of you want to capture so much stuff. Can you just sit down, play a game, and completely shut off your analytical brain of I'm just
right.
having fun? Or is there always a party that's like, I could use this for a video, or I could
Oh
use this for
gosh,
fun?
yeah.
Like, it really messes with your mind. Like, that's where you said about the YouTube thing. There's been some games I just decided there's no chance I want to even touch it because I want to enjoy it in the moment and I don't want to. Let me get my computer on. Let me record this footage. Let me do this.
Yeah, I mean, if you're ever gonna kind of create the same kind of memories that you had when you were young, create new ones with new games in the same way, you kind of have to shut off the technology, the other stuff, the social media, all that stuff, and get it out of your mind of like, okay, I got to make a video of this, or man, if I'm not recording this gameplay footage, I'm wasting my time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's come to me. I used to. It was sad. I used to tell people back in the iRetro days, iRetro Gamer, the first channel. I used to tell my cousin or my friends, I'd be like, it's crazy. I only ever play a game now to record the B-roll.
Yeah.
I call it B-roll.
Yeah.
I only ever, whenever I'm playing a game, it's because I have an ulterior motive, of wanting to make a video of it, which in and of itself is not bad if that's what you want to do and that's your project. But then you start thinking and realizing, wait, I don't play games like I used to. I don't enjoy them the same way because I have, and it really, it's work. It's becoming work at that point.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's a strange thing, YouTube, and especially the gaming side of YouTube, and trying to, have fun doing it, but also wanting it to grow. Obviously, with anything, you want a project that you're pouring your heart and soul into. You want it to succeed on some level.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't ever subscribe to that group of like, I mentioned before, obviously, do it because you're passionate about it and do it because you love it. But I don't subscribe to the group of like, if you can't be disappointed. Like, I don't ever subscribe to that group because
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's not human nature. That's not, you're gonna be disappointed if nobody watches your show. and
course.
stuff
Yeah.
like that. I mean, that's just natural. And to put that on somebody like, oh, you should just be passionate.
You should do it for the love.
Yeah,
of
Just
do it
for the love,
right?
yeah.
Do it because you love it. Like, no, I never do that. Definitely, I mean, the driving force in you should be, if you want to not burn out, that you love it and you're going to do it until you're 60 or whatever, but actually I take that back. You don't have to do it till you're 60 if you don't want to. But
if I'm still doing this when I'm 60, gee,
I know, right? But like, I say this to encourage anybody who's maybe struggling with YouTube, is to disconnect from the analytics of it all, disconnect from keep going with it if you're enjoying it. I'll say it again, like I said it before. I don't know if it was before we started talking in the recorded version of this, but do it because you love doing it and it's not taking away from your life. Like, as far as it's not making your life more stressful or more worse in some fashion. YouTube should not own you. You should own YouTube and be in control of it. Anytime with anything, if it gets this foothold in your life where you are now consumed by it, it controls your I got to get a video out. Oh, I've got to do this to meet the algorithm. Oh, maybe if I type in the title of the video a certain way or have a certain thumbnail. All these things.
I've tried all of these. They've never worked.
Believe me, I have too. And you get too caught up in that, and then all of a sudden it becomes stressful. It becomes a job. It becomes all these things that you don't want it to be. And that's when I think a lot of people burn out, is because it's no longer giving to their life, it's taking away. So yeah, I mean, like, you can be all that to say, obviously disappointment is real. Keep going. If you're struggling, keep going, unless it's just really a burden. If it,
I mean, that hits really close to home because, like, Brian and I, we've been doing this page for, God, almost 8 years now. And, like, it's never been the kind of page that's ever taken off and stuff like that. But it's still one of the hobbies that I have left, especially with COVID. It's not like I can play shows anymore or anything like that. So,
sure, yeah.
It's luckily still that thing where it's, like, it's still fun to do, even though, like, you put out a video, even if it's, like, there's always, the stuff you really put time into, and there's easier content that you can just throw out there.
Yeah.
And even then, it's just, like, I think you need to have, like, parameters too to keep yourself from going nuts. Like I spend too much time opening the YouTube app, like, on the phone and seeing the analytics.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, well, 9th out of 10th of my most recent. Oh, that's a kick in the nuts. But it's also like, what are you gonna do? Because at least, like, I still have those set rules where it's like I never work on content until my kid goes to bed. Yeah. So it's that kind of deal where, like, I'm trying not to let it, like, if it's gonna happen, it'll happen. If it doesn't, it's been doing it long enough where it hasn't. So, like, I don't have to have these delusions of grandeur. At least I can still prioritize in the meantime.
Well,
and Jim and I, like, we talked about this, like, man, we killed ourselves at the beginning. It was like, oh, we're gonna do an entire month, all 30 days dedicated to every Simpsons video, and every single day I was churning out a video. Like, we recorded the stuff, and it burnt. We did that. We did Mortal Kombat. We did Superman. We did every version, and we did this, like, in tandem, month after month for a while. And it was just like, all right, the real purpose of this was for an excuse for Jim and I. Let's get together, find a day a week where we sit down, play games together, give it our review, because we were like, oh, we can review better than other people because we have different, it was just an excuse to get together and have fun. And then when it became that thing of, like, we're trying too hard to make a theme month or do this, and then it was like, all right, let's get together when we can. And the podcast was a nice intermediate, because one of the things, Jim is he's a social media guy. Whether he likes it or not, he's doing that. And
I have a problem.
Yeah. But it's like, we do enjoy talking with people. Doing this right now,
Yep.
like talking with you, talking with guests, is a really fun thing. And doing the podcast is another fun excuse of us to be able to share gaming memories, just talk kind of BS with people, whether we know them or not. And it's just that is ultimately like the best value of video games to us. So we still try, like, okay, if we can, we'll get out a couple reviews a month. We're never going back to getting 30 reviews out in a month. Like, that's beyond nuts.
I don't know how you did that.
That sounds insane.
It was too much. But it's like one of those deals where now we're like, we made a pact. We're like, let's just either do reviews for like people from our Patreon or whatever that want to talk about a specific game or wants to talk about a game, or we give each other games that we think we'll really enjoy, and let's just really hyper focus on those. Yeah. So like you evolved with yours, that was the same with us. We got to a point where we're like, we just can't do it all. We do little pet projects, like we do like top 10s, 6-packs, because we want to find an avenue to do it. And those are enjoyable because we're getting our true feelings of something out there one way or another. But yeah, the idea of maintaining a very rigorous schedule, it's not attractive at all.
Yeah, no, it's just, it becomes a little unrealistic. I think you gotta dream big, obviously, with your projects, and there's always hope for growth and stuff like that. But you also, something that has helped me actually in not like, really, it's actually funny. Have you guys heard the new Weezer album?
I haven't heard it yet, but I hear good things. Like, I hear my one buddy was talking earlier today, and the one song, he's like, it's the most relatable song. One song's just about him putting on audiobooks and zoning out.
Yeah, it's such a good album, and it was recorded at Abbey Road Studios, where Beatles did Abbey Road.
Oh, wow.
And they actually used like a full orchestra like throughout. It's like their Rubber Soul basically.
Okay.
It's kind of, or sorry, not Rubber Soul, Revolver. It's like their Revolver with like Eleanor Rigby. Anyway. My point in bringing this up is that there's a song on there. I just thought of it. It's called Numbers, and he's talking about analytics and how we're always looking at numbers and followers, and he's talking about social media and stuff like this. And Rivers is lamenting his desire to for that to grow and stuff like that. And I along with so many, I think millions of people, relate to that in this generation and in this world we live in now. And it's like, how do you can't go there. You can't, because here's the logistics of it are that you're probably not going to be one of those people that like make a living out of this or something. Like, I mean, I don't want to crush anybody's dreams at all. I don't want to ever say, it absolutely can happen. And I work full time. This is not a full time thing for me. Maybe one day that would happen. Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. Realistically, probably not. And you have to kind of look at look how many people want something like that to happen. Think of all the millions of people on YouTube and how many people are trying for that same. Think of it in terms of like a job position. There's so many people vying for that same job position in competitive fields and stuff like that. Well, the same thing is happening on YouTube. There's so much competition, and there's so many people vying for that coveted thing that you want, which may be full time, maybe this or that, and the odds of that actually happening, there's just not enough reality. You know what I mean? Like, it can't really. There's so many people that are going for it that not everybody can get it.
Oh, for sure.
And like, so, yeah.
Now I was going to say, what do you call it? Justin Wang last week, like, especially during like the boom of like all the like the meme stocks and stuff like that, he put out a tweet and he was like, oh my God, my life is basically boiled down to number go up good, number go down bad.
Oh,
and I was like, damn, that hits way too hard.
Oh, yeah. I know. And that's kind of sad. It's like you can't live life like that. And
I'm glad you hit that, because as we've been talking, that was one of the things I was trying to find the right way to say, and you said it much more eloquently than I would have. Because you said, you're like, I'm not trying to crush anyone's dream, but the truth is, just like anything, not that it's a direct competition, But in a theory, it's like, yeah, there's only so many views that so many people can give out. And, you know, how many video game channels are there? How many this channels are? And you're already competing against general channels on YouTube. Now you hyper focus just to gaming. And it's like everyone, you know, hey, oh, I have this unique take on it. I have this. If you're not enjoying it, don't join the struggle. Like, unless,
Right.
and you know, while there are cases of people, whether it be Twitch, YouTube, you can make a living off of it. I would highly recommend don't think that's going to ever be your primary source of income or your primary job. Like, even with our kids, with your daughter, you're making this footage. But I don't think you would ever truly encourage her to be like, yeah, don't do anything else with life. Just focus on gaming.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
like you're going to be
don't
like,
get an education. Don't, you know,
yeah,
don't do all this. Yeah. I mean, like even guys that, just off the top of my head, RGT85, Sean, he's gone full time, but it didn't start that way. And he didn't realistically even think he could do it until it started looking suddenly like he could. You know, he didn't go into what I'm trying to say, at least from what I gathered. I don't think he started YouTube and doing what he was doing with the idea that I'm going to do this full time.
I mean, yeah.
And so, but he kept doing it because he loved it. He was passionate about it. He enjoyed it. And then it got to a point where it suddenly started to look like, oh, well, maybe there is a pathway to this. But the bottom line is his heart about it was not, I'm in this for the followers and I'm in this for the career and this sort of thing.
Yeah.
It was, I'm
Right.
in this because I enjoy this and it's fun. And at one point it just was like, he just got to that point where it's like, okay. And I think that's like that for a lot of the guys that have done really well. And that's part of what helped them get to that point was that I think their heart about it going into it wasn't that. That's how they were able to maintain that level of passion and excellence and moving forward, was because they would be doing it anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all that to say, like, yeah, I would discourage. If whoever's watching, if you're going into YouTube and you're excited, be excited, dream big, have these, you know, ideas and aspirations, but don't only be in it to make it a full-time gig or be successful or famous or anything like that. Because
And almost to make it full circle with your dad, YouTube is running off to Hollywood that you can do at home.
yeah,
So everyone wants to do it, but only a certain amount are going to be the lucky ones who really, you know, take off doing it.
Yeah.
no, you're absolutely right. And we talked about comparison earlier. You know, like it's one of the hardest things. It's so easy to see somebody else's life or somebody else's success and say to yourself, oh man, I wish I had that, or why can't that be me? But if you do that, if you constantly are focused on that, you're going to miss out on what is right in front of you.
Yep.
And you don't want to do that. You don't want to look back at your life years from now and be like, man, I spent so much time just worried about like the future and worried about other people and worried about what I'm doing, my career, all this stuff. You know, it's just like live in the now and enjoy life, have fun. Yeah.
Only one you get.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, and yeah, to really capsize that, like, if you're going in it for any idea of money, just like the people watching stocks recently, like Jim alluded to.
Oh gosh.
Like,
yeah.
if you're not informed, if you're not
To the moon.
if you're not doing it with true intentions of like why you're doing it,
Speaking
you're
of,
probably gonna get hurt. And you know, and if you're someone who's like, I could see somebody making money from this, that, and the other, it's all great to try what you want to try, but just have that realistic expectation. Like when I was a kid, I was like, I want to become a wrestler. That was my thing. And then it's like by 7th grade, 8th grade, I was like, all right, it's probably not going to be the thing. But there's that mentality of switch of like, you know, have a realistic expectation And if you are lucky enough to have any type of monetization, any type of followers, any type of Patreons, any type of supporters,
Yeah.
then just be thankful for them. Like Jim and I, we've said many times, we are more than thankful. People who follow us on Patreon. We love you guys. It helps support, maintains our site, maintains our servers, maintains things like that. Can't be thankful enough. But we're not like, that's going to be the thing that pays our bills. But once again, it's like everyone we are able to connect with, it's such a blessing, if you will, like of how much, you know, hey, you like listening to us, you like connecting with us. We appreciate it to the max.
Yeah. And that's, you know, that's kind of a lesson for life. You know, it's like, you're like that with like your viewers, you're saying, you got to be like that with all the people in your life, you know, all your friends, your family. Yeah, we're getting real deep here, but
oh yeah,
I was just having conversation with my wife about and putting my cousin Ryan on the spot right here if he's watching. If you ever watch,
he better.
If you ever watch,
better.
But
Jim wants to see that subscriber count go up by 1.
But like, I was getting footage for this new MyRetroLife episode I'm working on, and a lot of it has to do with my cousin Ryan, who he's only been featured in a few episodes up until this point, but he's in this one. It's all about ghouls and ghosts, and ghosts and goblins, both. But he's in a lot of this footage. I'm transferring the footage. I ended up watching like this whole tape because I was so transfixed on my family, and like this is my family that lives in Dallas, and it's my cousin Ryan, my aunt Sharon. We just recently lost my uncle Rick, and he was in it with them, and it was weird. I was watching this footage, and I got the clip I needed of ghouls and ghosts and goblins, and Ryan and I playing it, and then I was like, I just kept watching the whole thing. Anyway, long story short, I ended up this morning texting my cousin. I hadn't talked to him in a while, and I just kept thinking about, I saw Uncle Rick in the footage, and we just lost him recently, and I was just like, man, like I haven't talked to my cousin in forever, in a long time, and I just shot him a text. Hey, was watching this footage of us back in '89. I was like 3 years old, and and I saw how great he was with me as a 3-year-old, and it made me think about the importance of him in my life, how important he is to me. And I just said, love you, cuz, and just wanted to tell you that. And he wrote me back, love you too. And it's so, yeah, all that to say, time keeps moving forward, and before you know it, you don't want to live life with any regrets. So anybody watching too who wants to maybe talk to somebody who you haven't talked to in a while or something, like, reach out to people you love and stuff, because they're not going to be around forever. Life is fragile, and just enjoy life. Sorry, I don't mean to get so like deep.
No. We appreciate. I mean, that is, you have that. Like you said, you're talking about it, and it's making me think similar things. Like if I were to look at footage of something, I would get that same feeling of family members or whatever. And it is very, think about the now, think about this, think about that, but keep yourself grounded. And family is one of those things. Family, friends, whatever. Mm-hmm. It's easy to like, we talk on a daily basis because we text or whatever. But like, have a real conversation with the people that are most important to you. Because at some point, we all just become a photo that someone looks at in the past.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. Like footage, whatever, that's your legacy to a T. And that is more heartfelt, that you're going through his footage and now you're making more real connection. And it ties back to what we said, like that generational gap of, oh yeah, like there's that human element, which is what makes it all, the special part.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's yeah.
No, I hear you.
What else can I say? Yeah.
No, but no, it does go, like I said, being connected with people is the most important thing. And I'll say for Jim and I, we absolutely love talking with folks, talking with you. And, I mentioned our Patreon, and one of the things we love doing is like, hey, we get the little chance we can, whatever we can give back, whether it's reviews or whatever. But one of the more common things we always do on the podcast, like, let's hear our Patreon questions of like, hey, what do you guys want to hear from us? Because sometimes they're wacky. They're like, what are your favorite fast foods? Or what are your this? And I love that because they're trying to get past just what are your general opinions. You start to appreciate people. And that's one of the things we always have as a recurring bit is like, let's talk about our Patreon questions. Yeah. And Jim, I know we got a couple in.
Right, that might be the best transition we've ever had into this segment. I just got to put that out there right now.
Perfect. Well done. Well done.
Normally it's just like, speaking of money, patreon.com. But,
no, it did have us thinking, and like I said, one of the things that drives me and Jim is now, like, we do truly appreciate talking with people, and like talking with you. We haven't had a chance to talk to you in person like this before. We love meeting and talking with people, and Patreons, we have a closer relationship because we talk on a more regular basis. But it's at the end of the day, that's the most important thing, and that's the fun of gaming is sharing those experiences with people who can understand or appreciate them.
Absolutely, and that's real quick. I just want to add, the retro community, like the people, the friends I've made, the people. It's really that's another driving force is that the community is just so cool, and these like-minded people that are for your age. It's about community. It's about friendships. It's about people, and I think that's another thing that drives us to keep producing content and keep being a part of it, and that's what I always try to do. With my show, I always try to bring it back to the point of MyRetroLife, is that it's not about the games, it's about the family, it's about the people, it's about the memories, the shared experiences that the games provided for you and those that you loved, and I hope that gets across. I think that gets across.
For sure. Definitely. I think it does without a doubt. And that's the only reason why things like Console Wars exist is because we do love it so much and we care. And unfortunately, you and Jim are both Genesis fans the most.
Look, Brian, don't be mad we have taste, all right?
Oh, yeah.
Listen, you both just wanted to be
trash
like...
with your Mario games.
Listen.
I have 10 32X games. Darn it.
Yeah,
I dive a Tribe Stratus.
Jim, you and I have played all 32X games, and we both know that 32X it might not have been as necessary.
I was looking at both of your collections behind you, and I was like much more drawn to Jim's.
Oh, of course. Well, for you, I was like, you and G.
What are those? Yeah, exactly. What are those 32X games back there? I think I see Shadow Squadron.
Yeah.
Yep. Right here.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, I can tell.
Don't worry. All 7 of my Genesis games aren't going to impress you because none of them are crazy great titles, but they're all for some reason.
I can tell you've got
Brian. All of these are crazy great titles.
Yep. I got Altered Beast, Dracula, The Haunting.
It's kind of a. Yeah, no, I was gonna say that's kind of a fun game. Is like, can you tell from that blurred picture in the background just by the spines? What games are in the collection?
How bad is your retro gaming sickness that you can just tell that?
Right, exactly.
From a 120p picture.
Where's the one on the end of your Genesis games, Brian?
This one?
The red one, yeah. Is that High Seas Happy?
This will help you?
No, it's not. Okay, Street Fighter. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Yeah. I always forget about that Super Street Fighter version on Genesis. I always forget. I forget that. I always remember the championship one, and I forget that they ever released Super Street Fighter. Genesis. Yeah, they did.
It's almost like weirdly forgotten. Like everyone talks about championship. I'm like, I grew up with Super.
Yeah,
and that's the better version, I think, right? Like, well, as far as like the port, how it plays.
Most people say the Super NES port's better. Like, I mean, this sounds pretty much garbled.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I meant compared to Championship.
Oh, between that and Championship.
Yeah,
that's a good question.
Is that a flip of the coin?
I think this one is better.
I like Super better.
Yeah, like okay. I think it's better. But no, it's funny because Jim and I bust his balls on it. But the reality always was my brother had a Genesis. I had the Super NES, and the only reason my brother had a Genesis because he was a sports games guy. Like at the end of the day, that was the number. And I would try to get more wacky games that
Yeah.
since it was his system, I really didn't have the time. So, and I naturally was just like, oh, I like the Super NES because that's what I got to play the most. But no, but Jim, I always joke with, because I'm like, that's just because now it's a weird system that you can be like, well, it's like liking Barry Horowitz back in the day for wrestling. Like, you just like the random
Yeah.
whatever.
The Texas tornado.
Oh yeah,
Some random.
Poor 1 foot carry.
yeah.
What was it,
That's why I'm just gonna cover up the CDI collection over here. It got bad.
Like imagine somebody's favorite wrestler like just randomly being what was it, Bobby Valentine or something like that, or what
The
was
Hammer
it?
Valentine.
The Hammer
Oh,
Valentine.
Greg the Hammer?
Greg the Hammer.
Yeah, like
Yep.
I mean, I guess he has his fans.
Bobby was a manager, so we're in for a off.
No. Greg the Valentine. That's what I'm saying. There were
Yeah, Greg.
those-
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, Greg.
Yep.
Greg the Hammer Valentine. Yeah.
That poor
was
bastard
that
still
how it
goes
went?
to every convention.
Oh,
he's
man.
he's not as bad as Virgil with the lonely things, but he just kind of sits there. It's like, poor Hammer.
Listen,
Yeah,
Jim,
it's so funny.
everyone's.
But imagine, I don't know how many people like he's their favorite wrestler.
But then you got people like Jim who was like, you know what? Like, I loved WrestleMania 12, but man, Goldust stole the
He
show
pushed
from me.
boundaries.
Jim. But nobody
Goldust
bought a
did.
ticket for him. Like,
Wait,
at
was that the one where it's the backyard?
Him with
the,
Piper,
The,
yep.
the back alley fight with
Yep.
Piper is
Yep.
incredible. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah,
Thank
you.
that is still, for nostalgia strictly, probably my favorite WrestleMania. Because also I was a Shawn Michaels fan. He won the title there. Like, there was a lot behind that. But
Was that also Iron Man match?
Yep.
Was that
Yep,
also?
that was
Yes,
the
it was.
first
That was
Iron
like
Man
the-
match.
That's like
Yep.
the greatest WrestleMania
Oh, for sure.
there ever was. I think. Yeah.
That was
That-
actually the first like wrestling event I ever watched because my buddy knew I had illegal cable, and he was like, "Can I watch WrestleMania?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, come on over." And I was like,
The first-
"What's this?"
The first wrestling event I ever watched that got me into wrestling. Well, I would catch Saturday night
Main event.
main event on TV with my family, and my dad would watch it. And when I was a little kid, I'd react, to the wrestlers and the costumes and the loud personalities and all that stuff. But then I rented by '92. I rented Royal Rumble '92,
Oh.
and I rented that, and I kept renting it. Because I loved it so much. I'd watch it so many times. I swear.
It's a perfect rumble.
I know, with Ric Flair, just everything about that. It blew me away as a kid. Like, especially because I really like that nativity. Kind of not night. I can never say that word right.
Naivete.
Naivete, is that what I say? Yeah. I just was like in awe of everything that was happening. That whole event. Every fight. The Orient Express versus the New Heart Foundation.
Yep.
The whole drama with the Mountie
And Piper, yep.
and Piper match, and just like everything leading up, and then all of a sudden you get this Rumble that was like, I don't know.
The story it told was, yeah.
With all their introductions too. Like I watched it was the Coliseum video.
I
Yep. love that.
I miss them just yelling into the mic at 30 seconds each before the match.
Yes, that was incredible. They're all giving you a little synopsis of what their emotion is going into the ring, and you have a chance then to kind of pick your favorite and pick I don't know. It was great. It was just so good.
Bushwhacker
made
Luke's
you-
not lasting longer than 8 seconds, but he still got a little bit of a promo to be like, well, maybe Bushwhacker Luke has a chance.
Yeah, maybe he could do it. Yeah, Ric Flair coming in at number 3, you just never, you never suspected he would
You're
win.
like, there's no chance, and that's
Yeah.
what the storytelling of that generation and through the '90s was the key, and the cutting the promo, the doing that. Regardless of if your favorite was whoever it was, Texas Tornado, name whoever you want. If that was your guy, that promo made you believe much more. Oh man, nowadays it's so much 10 times more predictable, almost down to a science, that there's no true personality. It's all about let's do a crazier high-flying move than we did last year. Let's do we're almost exited than we did last year. Whereas back then it was wow, there's a story being told.
Yeah,
And
with all of them, they all had a story.
Yeah. It's funny because Shawn Michaels became my favorite. I absolutely despised him. Jim and I were going back and forth. We were joking about he would hate on the '95 Royal Rumble, but the fact that Shawn Michaels won as number one, I was a British Bulldog fan who was number two, and
Yeah,
when
I
he
remember that
eliminated, when Shawn eliminated him at the end, I was with like my brother, my cousins, and I was like, he cheated him, like that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
He was out. Like I remember freaking out and could not believe that. And then like I turned as a Shawn Michaels fan, but like you don't get those kind of reactions from, I feel like, any fan these days.
It's
like,
very rare these days.
Like now it's so just scripted of like, I know the guy that should win based on this. It goes back to analytics and this and that. Like the drama, the storytelling of it all is gone.
I think they really need to overhaul it. They really need to shake it up.
They need to stop scripting the promos. Let people, fail or flourish on their own. That's how you make a star.
No, yeah, that's absolutely right.
Yeah.
I remember watching documentaries, guys like Bret Hart talking about like not knowing how to even cut a promo and how terrible he was, like when he first started. I think I was watching the Bret Hart documentary, like on the DVD box set, and he's like, but he learned, he grew from it. He cut the promo, he did it, and he might have been terrible, but he got better as he went. And those guys were pioneers. Those guys were creating what became what we see today and what we know today. So, and everybody's trying to just duplicate what they did, and so it's not as genuine. I think too. I think it's not as like, from the heart, even, no pun intended. But, I think that's partially also why I kind of stopped watching too. Is like, I don't know. It kind of seemed phoned in. It kind of seemed like there was no soul to it, like
there is a definite drop off.
Yeah.
It's been a problem for decades almost at this point. And it's like they've had moments of like, oh, they might be capturing it again. And then as Jim alluded to, like they just squash it because it's so whoever. But it's one of those, like it really is. It was a capsule in time, and it's funny because our generation will always be like, hey, that Attitude Era, that was such a gold, like the 80s was a golden age for a different era. The Attitude was like that idea of like cutting promos and being more than just about wrestling, being true drama for people. And
right.
They just won't be able to capture that. Like there's too much other stuff involved at this point. It's like, whatever, it had its time. It doesn't always have to be on top like it used to be.
Well, and then you had the competition with like WCW.
That was amazing.
And how they fed off each other. It was like Sega and Nintendo. It was like who's going to one up each other? Who's going to,
competition drives the most important parts of it. I mean,
it does.
It's funny because you look at whatever you want to think of AEW, it's not comparable to what WCW was back in the day, and you look at the Super NES versus Sega Genesis, there's a reason that was the most crazy rivalry. Because, I mean, after that, you could argue a tiny bit of like PlayStation N64. Nobody gave two craps about GameCube versus Dreamcast versus PS. Like, at that point, it was like almost lock set and like, all right, you're either this camp or this camp. You weren't fighting anymore. Nowadays, there's a little bit of that, like, Xbox Sony stuff.
No, you know what? It's pretty intense, but, like, our circle doesn't really see it because we don't really care as much because we're older.
Right.
But if you ever, like, delve deep into some, like, threads on Twitter, it's like, wow, you guys you don't really care this much these days. All right.
But see, this is where I argue, Jim. You and me and Tyler, we all grew up making the arguments in a schoolyard. I truly believe this arguments only occur on Twitter and Reddit and fake social, but like I feel like in person you're not going to sit there and truly argue that hard, even as a
I don't
kid.
even think they know how to anymore.
That's my point. Like, so I feel like now it's the fun thing to, you just pick a bandwagon to jump on online, and now you're in that camp. But in person you'll be like, oh, we all agree, we like this new modern game that's on both systems, like I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
people don't want to have that even playfully don't have that conversation anymore in real life, and it's just like, oh, let me hop on my phone real quick. Got a vent. I don't have a picture on my profile. I got a vent.
Gosh, yeah.
Those days.
But now to terribly do a transition to get back to our Patreon questions.
Yeah, we transitioned off.
We started talking about wrestling, and then people watching, whoever doesn't like wrestling is going to be like, "Oh man, like here we go."
They all like the glory days.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it's funny. I'm sorry, I don't want to do this again, throw you off, but I will say there are so many retro gamers that love wrestling.
Oh, they are.
It's almost in tandem. There's no one
Yeah.
I don't know who loves retro gaming that hates today like that old school wrestling. Like everyone is usually,
Yeah.
even if you weren't a huge fan, you're like, yeah, I appreciated it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're all like that same certain ilk kind of deal.
Yep.
Yeah.
But all right, for Patreon questions. First off, from Gamer Astral, favorite console launch ever and why?
Let's see. Favorite console launch.
I was already done like 10 videos like this.
Yeah, well, it does get. Oh, I don't know if that. Not console launch doesn't get asked a lot. Favorite console gets asked a lot. But console launch, I'd say my favorite console launch was probably just off the top of my head, probably the Sega Dreamcast. Yeah, Sega Dreamcast. There was so much going into that emotionally for me, loving Sega. This was like a big new, like this was going to be their return to claim to fame, kind of like comeback system. And there was I was 13 years old. It's a super ripe age in 1999 for I don't know, everything clicked with that system, and the launch was amazing because they spent a lot of money, and that actually is what really hurt them in the long run too.
Yeah.
Was they spent so much money on advertising, those big commercials. I think one played during Academy Awards or something big, and it was I don't know if you remember those commercials where the lady is like running, and it's like this like futuristic looking utopia of like Japan, and she's trying to steal these plans from like a building, like she's a spy, and it's like the Dreamcast is what she's stealing, is what you find out. And it's a very vague kind of commercial where you don't know what it is, and then at the end it said it's thinking. That was their big slogan, it's thinking. They would whisper it, and then all it said at the bottom was like Sega.com, and so it was this real like at the
What
time,
is it?
very,
Yeah.
very trendy way of advertising the new Sega console. So it felt huge. It felt like, oh my gosh, like this new console is going to be better than anything they've ever done. And so that would be my favorite console launch, I think. And it was such a killer library when it came out. The Soul Calibur, what else was on there? Ready to Rumble Boxing, Sonic Adventure, House of the Dead 2. These were all launch titles, and it was I think Virtua Fighter 3. It was just an amazing launch.
Threeth, the weirdest named game ever.
Yeah, 3TB. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going with PS2. Similar timeline, but it was me going into high school that year. It was in 2000, and I remember I already had like side jobs, so I remember like I didn't think I had quite enough, but I like came out in October, which was my birthday, so I convinced my parents. I was like, if I give you some money, can I also get this with a game? And they were like, yeah, okay, like we'll get it. And at that point I was so in the PS1 like obsession, between like I'm a huge Resident Evil fan. I was a Castlevania, like there were so many games on PS1 that I was getting obsessed with. That the PS2, I remember getting like Gran Turismo 3 and Omnimusha as my first two games, and seeing the graphics on it, I was like, my God, like this is insane. The fact that this new technology that could also play DVDs, which were still a new thing at the time, there was just a mind-blowing melding of like, I can use this as watching movies and doing that. Like it blew my idea of entertainment system.
Yeah.
And it really, like, I still probably have the most games collected for it.
You do have a lot of PS2 games, yeah.
That was at the age where I had a job, and all of my money would go to, like, let me get a new game. And so I can remember taking that system with me if I would go down the shore or something. So that system has a lot of nostalgia for me for those reasons.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
I actually never had a console like at launch, like I was always a couple years down the line before I would ever get one, or my parents would buy me one. So the closest I ever had to a launch for a console is actually the 3DS, because that was the first like big gift that my girlfriend at the time, now wife, ever like got me. So it was shortly after we started dating. So she was like, "Well, let me buy you a 3DS. Do you want one?" And I was like, I wasn't really planning on it, but I mean, if you're going to do it, then sure, of course. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
and like not even I was never a big handheld gamer anyway. So because like I didn't have a Game Boy growing up or any of that, it all came down the line. And unfortunately, I dropped it only about 2 feet, and the freaking screen cracked, and I didn't get it fixed until way later. But
Man.
so yeah, like I could have had like this, like I could have had a 3DS library as big as my Genesis library right now, but I got like a solid like 30 some games on it. But yeah, just like for like that like emotional impact, I'll say the 3DS gets it for me.
Yeah,
Nice.
a huge component, that emotional.
Oh yeah.
place
Yeah,
in
right.
time,
Ties it
wherever you
all
were,
too.
man.
Yeah.
Next
No,
up,
a great question, Astral. Appreciate it, bud.
yep.
Yeah.
Next up from Eric Lewacki, what is the one arcade game you guys have played that you would like to try out again on a cabinet?
Golden Axe: Revenge of Death Adder.
Ah,
Oh,
Um,
nice.
It's I knew immediately because like that game I played back when it came out. Uh, in our we had a place called Celebration Station chain. I don't know if they had them where you guys are in Philly, but
never.
maybe it's more of a Texas thing. Yeah, but it was like a putt golf. Batting cages, bumper boats, arcade type of family fun center. And they had Golden Axe: Revenge of Death Adder, and we loved Golden Axe 1 and 2 on the Genesis. Huge fans of the series, and then this game was just unbelievable. It was just the sprite scaling, the size of the sprites, the animations. It was incredible, and we wanted so badly for it to come out on home consoles, and it never did, and it never truly has until the new Astro Mini import from Japan
Yep.
just came out last year or something, and it's on there, and you can also do the arcade one up. Came out for it, so it's finally coming out in these ways, but that's the one I would want to play, the original arcade cabinet, because I have such great memories of discovering that thing and then it becoming like this lost arcade game for me. Like I never saw it again either.
Yeah, it's also funny
Yeah.
because like the original PCBs are really prone to failure too.
Wow.
So like there's a lot of people out there who have the original thing, but like they get no sound out of it. It glitches out after a while. Like they were like kind of crappily made. So it's even like
Yeah.
more rare that like it's good that we're getting it out finally in like one way or another.
Thankfully, like the original source code or whatever wasn't lost either.
Yeah.
And people dumped it, and gosh, that's a good thing. It's off on a tangent, but I'm really glad like we don't have too many lost games
Yeah.
out there, like lost media.
like a lot of lost film.
No, it's not like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
like the nitrate film stock in the 1920s that burn up, and yeah.
Even though then again you'll see the random like on YouTube you can see like what was it, the first ever like technically moving picture where it's just a guy filming like a train station and it's like a 30-second
yeah.
video.
Yep.
But that's on YouTube, like out of all the things that like got
Have
preserved.
you guys seen those restored videos where they take old footage like that, like early film footage from like the teens or the late 1800s or whatever, and they restore them in a way where it almost looks like you're watching modern day. Like they've
That's amazing how they do
it's-
them. Yeah.
It's so unbelievable. And these people are like looking. They've updated the frame rate too to make it look like normal, like 60 frames a second. I think even.
It's crazy.
I'm like, it's the most weirdest thing. I feel like I'm looking into a portal through time.
It's
when I
like
was-
you're looking at CG almost. It's like it is so eerie, because it's funny. Like one of the other things I do, like I'm obsessive with horror movies and stuff, and I was doing research on the origins of horror movies, and it goes back to 1895 and 1896. Wow. And then I did research of like, well, what was it before that, and like the Lumiere brothers and some of the other things, and like Jim's saying. One of the things that we all use today, like jump cuts, was an accident because there was a skip in the film, and it cut to a different thing. Like it's like these little editing techniques. But what you were saying, when I found these old versions, I found these quote unquote updated. It's so creepy. Like creepy is the only word I can use, because it like looks out of place, but they've corrected the film. It just it's amazing. Yeah,
it is wild.
Or you even see like something like Metropolis, where there were so many different cuts of it that were like spread around the world with like different footage. And over like the last 100 years, people have been piecing together like all these like barely readable and restorable versions. So if you like watch it on Netflix, it'll be like playing, and then you'll have this really grainy version, but then you realize it was like a one-of-a-kind film reel that they found at the bottom of a box in the bottom of a bomb shelter that no one saw for 100 years. That was the only version that had this clip of it. And then you see like the preservation going on. It's like, holy crap.
It's amazing. Yeah. And luckily, like you were saying, though, it's not as big of an issue with gaming. As much as people like to complain about pirating and stuff, there's almost like a historic preservation that goes on through that, of like sharing code and this and that. So, I think hopefully we've learned in the past and we won't have any lost games in the future.
I know.
But yeah, arcades are a weird one, because so many of them translate so well to modern consoles that the only things I could think of are, I always go back to Time Crisis or specific racing games that you're not going to get that feel on a console. Even like, the idea of a light gun or getting in a big car like thing. I'm never going to set up a rig like that at my house. As much as I love X-Men and Simpsons and stuff, I'm fine playing it on modern consoles. Do I like the arcade cabinet? Absolutely. But I'm never going to get the feel of a light gun, like a Time Crisis light gun, at the actual arcade. Or, like, a Daytona 500. I don't care about Daytona. It's the fact that I'm in this big-ass car, driving. Yeah. It's a different feel. So I would definitely go with one of those.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback off that, too. Give me Hydro Thunder. Like, that was, like, 99, 2000, 2001, like... I never went to arcades a lot, but that was the one I always put money into, just for that like that visceral surround sound and the chair shaking in all like different ways, force feedback.
Yeah. On that note, actually, I would say the X-Men 6-player,
that was
the widescreen one.
Oh yeah, where it goes out. Yep.
Yeah, it's like 3 different monitors put together, and it's actually in the arcade episode I did of MyRetroLife. Dad caught that on video, and that thing was so much fun to play with, like
amazing.
Six other friends, or it was so crazy.
The barcade in Philly has that, so when we're all vaccinated up, we got to make a trip out there.
That's right.
That's awesome.
But no, great question. And hold on one second, gonna bring it up over here. And last up from Alex Perez, what is your favorite game in a genre that you don't really care for? Harumph.
Yes, that's a head scratcher.
Game in a genre I don't...
Or a chin scratcher.
I mean, for me, it's almost too easy because I always bash RPGs and then I always talk about, Shadowrun. But I'll also say, I guess for JRPGs, I'll say the first Final Fantasy because, like, for as, like, choppy and as bare bones as it is, I don't know, for me, I guess I had more fun just, like, mindlessly grinding in that than I do in, like, any, like, big epic kind of story.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a genre that I hate. What's my least? I've never really thought about it much. What's my least favorite genre? Probably like sports games. So I would probably say my favorite game is the question. Favorite game and least favorite genre?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess if you consider these sports games, they're like arcade sports games, but NBA Jam.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
amazing.
absolutely. NBA Jam, Hang Time, all those games that came out that were just arcade, fast-paced. Those were excellent.
It can convert a non-sports fan or a casual sports fan into a major. Like, you could all of a sudden be like, basketball or whatever. Like, that's what Tecmo Bowl and Tecmo Super Bowl did for football. Like, it's
absolutely.
I'm gonna kind of go with something like you just said, but I'm sticking more specifically to golf games.
Okay.
I hate golf games. Golf to me in general is a boring sport. Jim, you know what I think.
Oh, I know.
But Jim and I recently played a game. What was that? Golf for Two or
Golf with Friends.
It's a miniature golf game that basically adds in ridiculous, crazy courses, the ability that you could turn on knocking your friend's ball out of the way, and it's just
fun.
it's just stupid fun because you can not have to wait for your friend to putt. Like, you can both go at the same time if you want. Like,
And you can have, like,
breaks
what,
all the
16
rules.
players at once and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah,
it's kinda
so
like
it's
Bedlam.
just one of those, like, really fun, because golf is a boring sport to begin with, and you
Yeah.
add that in there and all the craziness that you can't help but have fun, because now you're just having a goofy competition with your friends. So I'm gonna go with that.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so-
sports game. I mean, sorry, golf games. It's funny. I actually really love Power Golf on the TurboGrafx.
oh,
Um,
Greg Norman's Power Golf.
yes, I don't even know why I love it. Maybe there's some nostalgia tied there. I do have some nostalgia. A friend of mine used to own it, and that's where I played it.
Now, what's the better name
but-
for a golf game? Greg Norman's Power Golf or Lee Trevino's Fighting Golf on the NES?
Fighting golf. Fighting golf.
It's got to be Fighting
That's
Golf.
definitely.
Yeah, Power
Legal-
Golf, like, people, like, kind of crap on it. And that's on the Mini, too, isn't it? And, like, I was like, yeah, I
it
think
is.
it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
People are like,
fun.
oh, this is a
It's got-
bad golf game. I'm like, I don't think it's okay.
No, it's good. It's got kind of an arcade, fast-paced kind of. It's not arcade, like nothing explodes or anything, but
Yeah.
it's fast-paced. It's got a quick pace to it. The music's really fun. Controls are good. Yeah, that's my favorite golf game. I know
Jim,
that
the real
wasn't
question
apt, but
is,
I just wanted to say.
yeah, no, but Jim, the real question is, why didn't you do Lee Carvello's putting challenge?
There you go.
It's
There.
not real Brian. Actually.
Actually, they did make it a real game.
Oh, I
That's
know
what
they
I was gonna say.
eventually
I
did.
think they have made it
Yeah.
a game.
It was like a year or two ago. They did the Van Hack. I do have to
They
get that.
did. Yep.
That's hilarious. Somebody needs to come out with a repro of that, like
That-
make the physical.
See, I'm going to be looking on eBay after this. We're right now.
Yeah.
The other game they have to make was, what was the one Bart stole? Death
Oh,
Storm. Bone Storm.
Bone
Yeah.
Storm. Yeah.
Yeah, that was another one where I was like, when you see those fake games at this point, I'm like, why doesn't somebody make a real
Those
version
need
of
somebody
any
needs
of
to
this?
come up with the original, like almost as if it were real. Create
Yeah.
a new retail package for it.
Bone
that'd be
Storm.
great.
It's
Yeah,
like
that would-
it's like take Time Lord but making good. There you go. You have Bone Storm.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Time Lord. Oh, don't even get me started.
Hot garbage.
Oh, that game was a nightmare. We rented it back in the day. I mean, we
Oh,
owned it.
you poor soul.
I think we owned it. Yeah, we were, suckered in by its first two levels being like kind of easy. And then
Pretty,
the third-
yep.
And then the third level is like near next to impossible.
Uh-huh.
The country western level.
Oh, it's so a pain in the. Well, it's funny because Jim and I just did for our 100th episode, we did our Power Hour, and I put Time Lord's main theme in there because
Oh
the
my
music
gosh.
is.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love that opening
It was,
theme, and the guy David Weiss, yep,
David Wise, yeah.
who
I would
does
say
great
Wise, it's
work.
Weiss, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, that game I have nostalgia for, similar to you. I don't know how many times I ran it. I love the concept of it,
Mm-hmm.
but it was one of those I played I don't know how many times. I know I never beat it,
Yeah.
but when people ask me, I'm like, yeah, I think that was actually a pretty good game. And then I'll go back and play, and I'll be like, it didn't age well at all. It's actually pretty terrible. But
Yeah.
the music I still love. I still
it's
defend to this
fantastic.
day.
Yeah, it really is.
And actually, what do you call it? I effed up my answer because I was thinking
You
of
went-
Time Killers, not Time
Yep.
Lord, when I was thinking of Bone Storm.
As soon as you said
Which is
Jim, I
another
knew what
terrible
you were talking
time-based game.
about.
Yeah.
But yeah. Time Killers is rough.
I never had Time Killers.
Don't.
Thankfully, Never
Don't. Do
Don't
not.
ever get it.
Yeah. I think I played it on the Sega channel actually. I think they had it on there at one point, and I
Did they?
played it there and then never played it again.
Well, at least you got to play it there and not actually buy it.
Yeah.
At least I can say I don't have that here.
But Alex, I do want to say that is a great question because that's one. Yeah, that was definitely more of a thinking question than we've had for a little while. So thank you.
Yeah.
He always throws those humdingers at us. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
that wraps up the Patreon questions for this week. So, as always, for anyone new listening, if you want to ask a question to us, each and every single week we will answer a question if you're in the $2 tier. So patreon.com/DrinkABeerandPlayAGame.
Yep.
And also, if you're new to the page, please go to anywhere where the podcast is listed. Leave us a review. if you leave us a 5-star review and decide to bash us, that's fine. We'll read any 5-star review out there, but anything helps.
Yeah. So, Jim, one of the things you had thrown up a few things, and I want to get you and Tyler's take especially, because it is a newer thing, but you have your sample Stadia, and something you mentioned many times, they're basically already giving up on or making their own games. There's just going to be a third-party console already.
Yeah. I've never opened mine.
I mean, this is one of those things, Tyler, I don't know how much you followed, but we were making a joke about it. Like, why are they doing this system? Like, it doesn't make sense. And yes, they have a ton of money behind them, but why not just be a third-party thing? And it's been out for, what, a year and a half, 2 years?
About
tops?
that, year and a half, maybe.
I think it's about time they give up. To me, Stadia always just felt like the next Engage or something. Like,
Yeah.
it just wasn't taking on, and it feels like it's almost like beating a dead horse. It's like that friend who won't give up on like something that they think they're talented in, but but they're really not talented in it, and you don't have the heart to tell them or something. like that's Google with Stadia. It's like, guys, look, you want to do this really bad, but you're doing it all wrong.
Yeah.
And it's just not working out. Go with something else.
Cue the timestamped YouTube comment saying, like, a YouTube channel?
Oh my gosh.
Stadia is one of those things, like, if you have the money and infrastructure and you can provide a platform for people the way they're trying, you should have always just been third party. Like, just figure out a way to do that, or tie in with one of the other major players and exclusively just show their stuff on top of it. Like, but don't try and now create your own thing. You realize, you can't just throw money at everything and just make it work.
No, it's just not gonna. You're gonna burn out quickly, like Sega Dreamcast.
Yeah, or if you're gonna, I think first party isn't a bad idea because it brings people in. But if you're gonna be a streaming only service, don't charge full price for your games when people, what's the point in paying full price for a game if you have no way of claiming it, especially if your service goes down? Steam, you can at least, like, say Steam goes away. Steam will never go away. But say something happened. You can still download the games to your console off of Steam or your computer, so you still have a way of keeping it. Stadia shuts down, you're out your $60 that you spent full price because there's no backup or anything like that. So I think that's where they really shot themselves in the foot with their whole pricing structure. And then, you can get into the data caps and blah, 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 blah. But yeah, I think this is definitely the start of the end. And even, I wonder how many people are like me who got their free Stadia kit through being a YouTube Premium guy and still just have it wrapped up and like, I'll open that up, maybe.
But Jim, you're just an old fuddy-duddy because you can't appreciate that new generations don't need to collect like you do.
Bryce, shut up. I need my
Stadia?
plastic.
Hey, what's this Stadia?
Bryce, my wall of plastic is my personality. I need it.
Back in my day, we had Pokemon Stadium.
Back in my day, we bought games that were broken and we liked it, Dash Nabbit, because they couldn't fix it. Gave a cat.
That's the thing all of our kids are going to laugh at us about. They're going to be like, I have like 10,000 games on this device, whatever they're going to hold up. And they'll be like, oh, you have 100 and some games behind you. Oh, cool. Like, do any of them work? Like, do you even have the hardware? Like, that's going to be such a crazy idea of like collecting.
It's funny. No, go ahead. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
No. You're like, no. I'm just saying, like, it's something Jim and I have talked about, and we are suckers for it, obviously.
Yeah.
But I fully recognize, I still have old VHS tapes, and I'm sure, like, with you and your father, like, the amount of things you have that are now antiquated whatevers, you're gonna, yep.
This is one of my old home movie tapes.
There you go.
I don't know what it says there. Oh.
Something from 89.
80. Oh, sorry. I had it the right way.
Yeah, 89.
89
June 18th.
SeaWorld, Part 2.
SeaWorld Part 2.
Yeah, SeaWorld. Yeah, so, physical. It's physical. It's tangible. You can hold it. You read it. I mean, look at how much personality, too, is in this. Is handwritten. That's my dad's handwriting.
Yep.
It's like the more and more we drift away from the physical, the less personal it becomes. And
They will never know the sense of accomplishment from putting your old NES into a retro tank, into an upscaler to make it play on your TV, and then having to clean off the contacts just to make your 40-year-old game actually read in the goddamn thing before you have to take it out with a blinking light wind to fix the pin connector that went bad over the years. They don't know that sense of accomplishment.
no, they won't.
Jim, they also won't know what a channel 3 or 4 is.
Yep.
That's very true.
Gosh, there's probably guys in their early 20s who don't know what that is.
They will never know the convenience of daisy chaining RF cables. They will never know.
But yeah, I mean, Tyler, obviously you're in that unique situation, not only with gaming, but with VHS, with film. But like, as you're converting these videos, have you already done kind of a mass, like, let me just convert my hardware stuff to digital, just so
I haven't done like a mass convert all the home movies. It's like too much of an undertaking. And so I've just like taken what I need, because there's literally like there's like 40 to 50 volumes of packed VHS tapes, which, you know, each one's like over 2 hours, 3 hours. So there's a lot of footage to go through, you know. So we're talking like 150 hours.
I can't even imagine how much time that is.
Yeah, maybe.
And it's not like you can just
more.
set it and forget it, because maybe the tape goes bad. You have to hit the tracking button halfway through, or else you just wasted all your time.
That's the problem too. Yeah. So what I do is I typically just know I know what I need to get, and I go to the archive. I start digitizing exactly what I need to tell that story. And then there was a time where I did a lot all at once, but like all of the kind of stuff that I knew that was like super game focused. But as the series has gone on, I've started making them a little more nuanced, where like I'll include shots of me doing regular family stuff that I feel like fits into the storytelling. And so it has been a longer process creating new episodes, because I really try to comb through every little bit and find the best bits to tell the story the right way. So, but it would be great if I did just take the time to just get everything digitized per volume, per tape, per year, and just I really should do that, honestly, because it will help me easily make the rest of the series, because there's still like another 20 episodes around to do. So
yeah, but like we've said, you have how much time as a father, as someone who has a full-time job? Like, what are you every night for the rest of the next couple of years going to be like, all right, this hour every night I'm going to put in a tape and just dedicate to digitizing? You know,
I know it's such an undertaking, and on top of that, you know, it's you want to create content, you want to you know, get the rest of the content out, so it's like that takes time too.
Oh yeah.
And so but I think I forgot what the question was, sorry, but hopefully that answered it. Was there a question?
I have no idea.
Oh, no. What I was saying, Tyler, is you specifically, as someone who you come from video gaming, but also the VHS stuff. Like, do you see, you probably are similar to us, and based on your answer, I'm going to say you definitely are, where you do appreciate the physical. Like, I'm the type, I still prefer, if I'm going to read a book, I need it in my hands. My wife has a Kindle with 1,000 books. It's fine. There's something to me about like the tactile feel of having it. I appreciate, but I'm also a little different from Jim, where I'm like, hey, if we can convert our collections of smaller things, have it digital, there's such a convenience factor.
Yeah.
And that's what the Switch has provided for most people, is that convenience of moving and being able to do stuff. Yeah. There's no doubt that's where it's all going to go. And there will come a point where publishers can be like, why do we even want to waste the money to print a CD? Like, so many modern games are just CD keys that you have to download anyway.
Oh, yeah.
That more and more I've stopped going to the game stores to get it, because I'm like, if I just have to go to a game store to come home to download it anyway, why not just download it while I'm at home already and save myself the trip and this and that? So it's like, I'm changing my mentality. Like, where are you at? And especially now that you have a daughter that's younger again in the gaming, and you probably know that's where it's going to go. Do you think like you'll still try and instill like you want a collection, or are you just gonna embrace the digitalness of it all?
It's like a little bit of both. Like there's the fun side of collecting that I think she's getting into and understanding. Like I actually asked her at one point recently with a Switch game. I think maybe it was Hyrule Warriors. I even said to her like when we were it wasn't the when we recorded that video, but it was basically, do you want to get it digital or do you want to get it physical? But like actually hold the game and actually put it in. And she thought about it and then she said, I want the physical. I want to get. She likes putting the game in. She understands that, and she prefers the physical games over the digital. And so, but yeah, convenience sometimes wins out though, because I know all my music is streamed now. I don't have CDs anymore.
Cassettes went like this, then CDs. Yep. Yeah, at what point, unless you're someone who's like, you know, the modern thing of like people who like collect, unless you're specifically doing it for the collecting aspect, yeah, most people like, who doesn't stream? Like I don't see, you know, I have my CD books and my old CDs. That's also because I have an older truck that I still have a CD player in it, like the original. But outside of that, I don't come home and like, let me pop a CD in. Let me do that. You don't do that
anymore.
Yeah, and I think that's the way, unfortunately, newer games, that's just where it's going to go. Like, yeah, there'll always be a place for your NES games, your Genesis, your N64, but new games, I think there just will be a cut point where they're like, we're not releasing the physical copies. Like, why bother? And it does stink. I mean, but that's part of moving everything forward, I guess.
True. Yeah. But also to keep on that thought of CDs and using CDs and moving forward.
Oh yeah.
So, well, our last topic for tonight. So, the Polymega, we've been covering it on here basically since it first got announced. It's had a little bit of a rocky up and down development cycle to it. So, this came to us from the end of January, actually right before the meme Doge boom, and Polymega, they put this thing out on Instagram in their stories saying, if you pre-ordered in the USA at Walmart, please cancel your order and reorder at Polymega and use the code blah blah for a discount. And they had this long diatribe about like Walmart went through a personnel change and they haven't heard back and they never get their emails responded to. And we're losing our pre-orders and we're taking matters in our own hands. And if you order directly through us, we're gonna fulfill blah blah blah. And now, of course, on their website, it's saying, please note that all new pre-orders made after January 24th, 2021, are estimated to ship in Q3 2021. And I think this was originally supposed to come out last year at some time, even though you have the obvious COVID excuse and stuff. Yeah. And if you go on their page on their Twitter, like they're actively selling their like light gun peripheral for it and like their like NES controller variant and stuff like that. So
it's just turning into a joke.
Yeah, it really is.
That the way that, dude. I mean, this thing, Jim and I, we said we've been covering it, but the way they put up on Twitter and their Instagram, this feels like a high school couple that broke up, and you're saying like, don't talk to these people because they're airing out all their dirty laundry and the unprofessional nature of calling out Walmart, who could have been one of your biggest distributors. Like, really, that's the to me, this reads like, I don't know the specifics of who runs that company. It feels like a 21-year-old who hasn't matured.
It's like bad business,
And also, there's got to be more to it. Like, 'cause with all the delays they've had, like, this was me putting my tinfoil conspiracy hat on. Yeah. I bet there's things that Walmart's a huge distributor, so they're not going to just dick around with an idea. Like, they probably wanted to see either a working prototype or an actual proof that they're going to have a certain amount of stuff to put into production at a certain time. And for all we know, Polymega, with all the problems it's had, maybe they weren't going to be able to meet certain quotas, so Walmart just kind of cut the cord, for all we know.
Yeah.
Because it seems like when you tell people to pre-order directly from us and then they start selling their peripherals for a system that's not out yet, it's like, man, you guys are just hurting for money right now, aren't you?
Yeah. It sounds bad. It sounds really bad.
And it sucks, too. We talked about this before, but it's like the need for it's already passed it by. Like, we have so many modes out there now. We have so many other things. Like,
yeah.
Like I would still like to have the base unit for my CD games. Like it's still a cool little piece of
That's
future
awesome.
proofing.
Yeah, Turbo Duo games and
Yeah, and I mean, for as much as I would love to
CDs.
have the analog Turbo Duo that they're coming out with, one, I probably won't get it because it's going to be $400, and anything with analog, it sells out instantly and hits the scalper market. So,
yeah.
like, it's like there's a need, but ugh, they're PR, man.
I don't know why more of these consoles that keep trying this, we're going to be the emulation solution you need. It's a noble cause, but like, how many failures do we have to see or total meltdowns where you're like, maybe unless you truly can perfect it and do it at such a reasonable price point, stop. Like, why can't you see every business model for this seems to fail?
I think the one that did it the best was the Retron 5.
Which I have, and it is amazing. I mean,
yeah, I mean, it sure it's not hardware emulation, but it does the job. You know, it does it with excellence. It's got a great interface. The system looks cool, and you know, it's affordable.
It was the first real one to come out that hit that many at once too.
Right, and it delivered. It delivered on all that it was promising, and yeah, I think there hasn't been one in my opinion. I haven't really seen one that's delivered like that. I don't know. I haven't messed with some of the ones that are more the high end, like analog. You know, what do they call it?
The NTs and the minis
Yeah,
and the
NTs
SDs and
stuff
SGs.
like that. Those are like the
Yeah.
Cadillacs of new console hardware. But yeah, it's just really a shame to see Polymega and all that it was promising and all that it looked. 'Cause, I mean, I remember hearing about this thing back in like 2011 or something like that. It's been going for
Wow.
was maybe not that far back, 2015 maybe.
That was probably the
It's
first
definitely
rumblings.
been a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah, I feel like it's been years and years. But it's so sad to see them going this route and looking like they're burning in flames, like crashing and burning.
Like, this is another last ditch effort. Like, if Jim is correct, maybe it was a Walmart thing and they're trying to save face. But it's if they can't recognize that, one, they were the ones, Jim, and correct me if I'm wrong, they like blocked people from commenting.
Yeah, I was about to say, at least they're not, what do you call it, like getting into Twitter arguments with randos anymore, or putting out,
Right.
hit our, check out our latest update, but turning off comments for the tweet and stuff like that. It's all these little things. It's like, you shouldn't have done that. Like, at least take if you don't let people give you your licks for a product you're not delivering on, especially if they pre-ordered and kickstarted it, you're making a bad situation even worse.
These guys had probably great intentions to deliver a system that would have
That's
been
what- yeah.
really cool. But at the end of the day, I also look at it like we've been talking this whole episode about the appreciation of retro, recreating that feeling. The people who would have wanted this system, like the type of CD things, they're also like, I don't think the overwhelming need for having your old systems convert to HD in the most convenient way is the thing that true collectors are worried about. Like, you're probably, if you're a die-hard collector of these CD systems and that's still your main go-to, chances are you probably still have a CRT TV somewhere, or you have something so you can play the rig you want, and you actually appreciate it more because you don't need to see it converted to an HD. That's not what you're trying to get at. And it's not going to convert new people to like, oh, now I can have my Saturn collection I never had. Like, it's such a weird market to really try to capitalize on.
I think if they had come out when they originally were planning to come out, like, and when it was first being talked about, and it hasn't taken this long, I think at that time there was much more of a desire or need or an interest, I should say, in something like that.
Yeah.
But it's taken so long that people have moved on already, and who's going to wait 5 years or whatever, 4 years, however long it's been, for something like this? No, not everybody's going to wait, and they're going to go ahead and buy the original hardware or go on eBay, and they've already come up with the solution for themselves because this thing has been in just such a long gestation process.
Yeah. I mean, fans like me who I've died to want a Saturn and a collection of specific games, I can't commit to like getting a new console or what. Like, I'm just not that type where I'm like, now I got to do that. But I'll tell you what, if there's games on that system that I wanted, and if all of a sudden they become available on newer consoles like e-stores, and it emulates the game fine, I'm just as fine doing, like, that's where people like me who are former collectors, I'll just settle for that at this point, unless you show me a price point of something that's so ridiculous and I kind of can't turn it down. That's why I'm saying, like, the price point for the system and all the little crazy module, like all those things,
Yeah.
never made sense. And now you're doing stuff like this that you could have had people like me and Jim be like, we were kind of interested.
Yeah.
This makes you look so bad that I don't even like want to support you at all. You know, it's tough. It's, you know,
And especially, like, their biggest thing at first was they had Saturn emulation. It's like, holy crap, that's like the holy grail of emulating. And now you can buy a Saturn for, you know, like $100, you know, at the worst, drop a mode in there, and you never have to buy a disc for it. You can just emulate all the games, but still play it off the real hardware.
Yep.
So there's just so many solutions now.
There's
like,
so many solutions, right?
yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame because, like you said, good intentions. That's what I'd always felt like they had good intentions, but I think it's very clear at this point that there's something afoot. Something's wrong.
Yeah. I think they're definitely in, like, desperation mode at this point, which is sad to see. Like, I don't think they were, like, I don't think they're bad people. I think they just got in way over their head.
Yeah. I hope they can pull out of it. I mean, I hope they turn around. I know some people have already reviewed it.
Yeah, some have gotten demo units, and they seem to like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, look, the VCS came out, and everyone thought that was dead for a good year. So you never know. Like, it could just be randomly out of nowhere. Oh, Polymega released. What?
This is one of those things.
They go through another name change.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It's going to be one of those things that, unfortunately, no matter how the system performs, it's always going to be overshadowed by all this kind of BS.
Yeah.
You know, and it's because there's probably a decent team that worked on it. Whoever was the guy that approved sending out things on Twitter and Instagram, that dude needs to get fired. Like, I don't care who you are. Like, don't send out stuff airing your shit with Walmart. Don't do that. Like, come on. That's just basic, you know, professionalism 101. Don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And it's funny to see how, like, it's been a couple weeks, too, now at this point, and, like, Walmart never responded, but they're also Walmart. They're just like, come on, get out of here.
Yeah,
like, they don't have to respond.
You think Walmart's going to cry about the loss of Polymega orders?
They're probably like, Polly who?
They're like, did we have that? Is
Does
that
she
like a
work
we?
This is Polly.
Right?
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah, but I mean, we will continue to follow, and anyone who's listening, if you do have any other information, send us our way, because it's a fascinating saga. I don't know where it ends, but we'll
yeah,
see.
it's like our Stone Brewing lawsuit. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always those stories we got to keep following. But no, Tyler, we do want to say thank you so much. We truly, truly appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
You know,
thank you for having me on.
Yeah, we love the channel, and please, before we sign off, we want you plug away. Where can people find you? Channel names everywhere. Just please plug away, bud.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Yeah, it's MyRetroLife is the name of the channel, and it's you know, as you've probably heard in this podcast, it's a love letter to the old days, using all sorts of old footage that my dad recorded over the years, and it's also a tribute to him. He passed away years ago, so the whole thing is a series that basically reflects on video games, but also how video games affected family and friends and relationships, and what that meant to me from my perspective. So absolutely, if you guys check out the show, thank you so much. Would love to see you checking out the videos. MyRetroLife, you just search it on YouTube, on all the social media stuff, and you'll find it.
Yeah, and we'll have some links below in all the descriptions for everywhere we put this up, so you can click on it right there. You should be able to find it easy.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again, Tyler. And with that, we want to say thank you, everyone, for watching. If you haven't already, please make sure also subscribe to us. If you're listening to us on iTunes or Spotify, be sure, give us a 5-star rating. Even if you want to bash us, it would really help us in the future. And with that, we're going to say have a good night and cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.